A reincarnated dragon spends 50 years quietly abusing a farming cheat, and that is only the warm-up. His moonlight-powered crops soon attract fairy mages, giant tree warriors, nobles, monsters, and problems big enough to shake entire kingdoms. This is how one suspiciously overpowered Dragon Lord turns a dangerous northern territory into the strangest rising power on the continent. Here is where this ridiculous story begins. That meant 50 years ago, I woke up inside a dragon egg. Yeah, you heard that right. A dragon egg. I'm a guy from another world who got reborn as a baby dragon. On top of that, not simply any dragon. I'm a mix of gold dragon and red dragon, which is pretty much like being the child of an angel and a demon who seriously shouldn't have hooked up. My red dragon mom probably some powerful evil lady who ditched my egg like yesterday's trash. My gold dragon dad probably got tricked, seduced, or simply had a seriously bad night. I never met either of them, so I simply filled in the blanks with my imagination. Trust me, the fan fiction writes itself. Growing up alone as a baby dragon sounds rough, but honestly, I got lucky. I have this cheat ability where I absorb moonlight at night and turn it into magic juice that makes special plants grow super fast. That meant I simply farmed rare plants and ate like a maniac. Eat, grow, eat some more. Before I knew it, I was the size of an adult dragon while still technically being a teenager. Speedrun life any percent baby. Now I'm a legendary tier dragon, top of the food chain. On top of that, since my scales are gold, I simply tell everyone I'm a gold dragon and pretend the red dragon blood doesn't exist. It's like having a criminal uncle. You simply don't bring him up at family dinners. Being a gold dragon is way more convenient anyway. Everywhere I go, good guys roll out the red carpet. Free food, free lodging, everyone loves you. Being a red dragon, that gets you a welcoming committee of swords and fireballs. That meant, what does a legendary dragon do for fun? Become a feudal lord in a human kingdom. Obviously, plenty of gold and silver dragons do this. They disguise themselves as humans, grab some land, and play landlord. Some old dragons, even married princesses, and sit on mountains of gold doing absolutely nothing. That lifestyle spoke to my soul. I came to the Alpha Kingdom and set up shop in a place called Riverside Territory, way up north next to Orc Empire territory. Dangerous? Sure. The catch was that that's the whole point. If you're strong enough, you can simply take land from the orcs and maybe grab some orcs to help build stuff. I promise I'll treat them like I treat my farming equipment, with great care. I even went straight to the king to get my paperwork sorted. No point dealing with petty nobles trying to mess with the new guy. The king gave me a royal stamp of approval and 500 soldiers as a welcome gift. Those soldiers don't know it yet, but simply by hanging around me, my dragon aura is slowly turning them into half-dragon people who will be loyal only to me. It's like a passive Wi-Fi signal, except instead of internet, they get scales and undying devotion. If I want to speed it up, I can simply feed them diluted dragon blood. Customer satisfaction guaranteed. By then, about my travel companions, I've got 3 elf girls bouncing around behind me. They're not regular elves, though. They're nature spirits born from magical bugs that live in plants. One of them, Tishna, is this tiny green twin-tailed cutie who fell asleep on me during the ride. The whole carriage smelled like flowers and bad life decisions. My grand plan: use my moonlight plant juice to mass-produce magical crops. Use my dragon aura to build an army of loyal half-dragon super soldiers, and eventually create my own duchy. I'm not here to struggle and grind. I'm here to live that noble lord lifestyle. Wine, women, and world domination in that order. Some dragons dream of guarding treasure. Me, I dream of cat girls, fox girls, lady knights, and sorceresses. What can I say? In matters of romance, I definitely take after my red dragon mother. Like son, except I have better taste. So those 3 elf girls following me around, they're not regular nature spirits anymore. They're dragon elves. Basically, what happens when a nature spirit levels up while marinating in my dragon energy? Instead of becoming a boring support-type elf lord, they went full battle mode. Think tiny magical girls crossed with actual dragons. Each one of them is a peak tier 8 powerhouse who could one-hand slap a sky knight into next week. On top of that, the best part, Tizna can transform into a full-sized golden dragon. 50 mean of shimmering gold scales, complete with dragon pressure and everything. She looks indistinguishable from a real gold dragon. So now I, an actual legendary gold dragon in disguise, am riding on the back of a fake gold dragon, pretending to be a dragon rider. The irony is so thick you could spread it on toast. We flew out to scout the neighborhood. Turns out the local orc population is mostly jackalmen, minotaurs, and centaurs. The minotaurs are born warriors, big, strong, stupid, angry. The centaurs are natural cavalry and love raiding. On top of that, The jackalmen are sneaky little nighttime harassers who never leave you alone once they notice you. My recruitment plan is simple. Minotaurs and Centaurs premium grade ox and horse labor force. I'll go out to the grasslands and peacefully negotiate their employment. On top of that, if peaceful negotiation fails, well, I'm also somewhat skilled with my fists. The jackalmen, though, those I'll simply exterminate. You can't put a jackalman on a farm. They'll eat the crops and stab the other workers. While we were flying around, Tishna spotted something interesting. A group of human smugglers trading with orcs on the plains. They were swapping grain and weapons for grassland goods. On top of that, behind that orc trading party, dozens of tied-up catchy girls. Yep, cat girls. Part human, part feline. 100% popular with noble gentlemen everywhere. There's a whole underground economy of smugglers and slave catchers going into the grasslands to grab them. Though most of those expeditions end up as orc food. Tishna asked if she should handle it, but I said, no, this one's mine. See, I'm a proper nobleman of the Alpha Kingdom now. Stopping smugglers who supply weapons to orcs. That's not robbery. That's my civic duty. I'm practically a hero. I teleported above them and overwhelmed the whole group with arcane missiles and defeated its armed leaders in about 3 seconds flat. The remaining 200 mercenaries and the cat girls. All legally my war spoils now. Congratulations to me. Tishna landed next to me, blushing slightly, and said I was getting seriously good at this. Which okay, fair. This wasn't exactly my first time pulling the old ambush the bad guys and take their stuff routine. My entire personal treasury was built on this business model. Gold dragons call it righteous intervention. I call it fishing with a badge. On top of that, while she was complimenting me, Tishna was already looting the bodies like a pro. That's my girl. Later that night, back at camp, a royal architect nervously unrolled his blueprints on my table. I'd asked him to design a city for my territory. The poor guy looked terrified, probably because most new lords in the dangerous north simply asked for a small dirt fort. On top of that, here I am ordering an entire city like I'm placing a takeout order. So the architect looked at my city blueprints and nearly had a heart attack. I asked for a city 2 km wide on each side with 18 m high walls all around it. The poor man was mentally writing his own obituary. He's thinking the orcs raid every harvest season, and we don't even have a mud hut yet, and this lunatic wants a walled metropolis. The catch was that here's what the architect doesn't know. I have a secret construction crew. I can summon an entire army of tree people, each one over 10 m tall, who can toss multi-ton boulders around like beach balls. Building walls for them is literally stacking blocks. Toddler difficulty. On top of that, for materials, my dragon elf girls simply cast a spell that turns mud into stone. That meant the whole process is soldiers dig dirt, shape it into brick molds. Elf girls zap it into solid rock. Tree giants stack it up. It's like an assembly line designed by a wizard who played too much Minecraft. That night, Tishna sat on my lap asking if this place would seriously be our home. She was born from a golden vein blood orchid, a super rare plant I accidentally created back when I was a baby dragon, simply trying to feed myself. I'd been using my moonlight juice on regular blood orchids. On top of that, one day, the flowers evolved and got golden veins on their petals. Those upgraded flowers are basically dragon steroids. Other dragons need a full day to digest one. I do it in 30 minutes. My stomach is built different. Within months of hatching, I was already enormous. On top of that, Tishna appeared during that growth spurt. That meant she's been with me since the very beginning. Anyway, things got cozy in the tent. Let's simply say, Tishna made a surprise little squeak, wrapped herself around me like a koala, and we'll leave the rest to your imagination. Elsewhere, outside, my guard, Captain Stoll, was drilling the 500 soldiers on night-breathing techniques. Their natural talent is garbage right now, but I've got golden vein blood orchids coming out of my ears. Those flowers boost strength, physical toughness, and the speed you accumulate battle energy. Once these guys all become official knights, they'll each work as hard as a whole ox. On top of that, in the north, soldiers aren't simply fighters. They're also farmers. Hundreds of knight-level soldiers tilling fields. That's basically having a tractor fleet in a medieval world. On top of that, once they're strong enough, we go borrow some minotaurs from nearby. Minotaurs are bulls. Bulls are labor. During peacetime, they plow. During wartime, they fight. Excellent cost-performance ratio. I should write a business plan. Next morning, I walked out of my tent and got swarmed by 20-some wheat and barley spirits. These are the spirit bugs the king gifted me, except they're not bugs anymore. I fed them moonlight juice on their very first night, and every single one evolved into a greater spirit. Normally, maybe 1 in 100 bugs ever makes that jump. I did 20 plus in one evening. Speed run evolution. These greater spirits are adorable little things who all have contracts with me and treat me like their favorite person in the universe. The fastest one literally kissed me on the cheek before I could react. They were all fighting for my attention. On top of that, honestly, if Tishna wasn't standing right there giving off, touch him, and die energy, I would have been buried under a pile of clingy wheat fairies. I told them I needed help turning mud bricks into stone. Their eyes lit up like I simply told them Christmas came early. They were volunteering so enthusiastically, it was almost scary. One particularly aggressive spirit even suggested, "We go capture orcs right now." Ma'am, it's 7:0 in the morning. Save that energy. Each greater spirit is equivalent to a fourth-tier mage. They know nature magic, elemental magic, and can summon water and wind elementals to help with work or combat. So yeah, I basically have a magical construction company staffed entirely by enthusiastic fairy girls. After getting everyone organized, I pulled out an oak seed, planted it, and dripped moonlight juice on it. The seed exploded into a 30-me tall ancient tree in seconds. 1,000 years of growth, speed delivered. On top of that, now that the tree had developed the spark of consciousness, it was ready for my next trick, the awakening spell. It's druid magic that turns a spiritually aware tree into a fully sentient, walking, talking tree person. That's right, I grow my own construction workers from seeds. I cast awakening on the oak tree, and the whole thing started cracking and groaning like an old man getting out of bed. The 30m tree shrank down to 20 shed its useless branches, and reformed into the most terrifyingly buff wooden creature I've ever seen. A weathered face appeared on its trunk, looking like it had seen some things. A moment later, it dropped to one knee and said, "Treeard greets the great master." Even kneeling, this thing was still 7 stories tall. I had to crane my neck simply to make eye contact. Treebard is basically indestructible too. Unless you bring fire, there's literally nothing a normal army can do to him. Put him on a battlefield and he'd flatten elite orc warriors into pancakes. Artisanal hand-pressed orc pancakes. Avila and Emily were standing next to me with their mouths hanging open. They'd seen storm giants at the coast before, and Treebard was bigger. These two dragon elf girls, who could solo most armies, were looking up at my tree like kids at a dinosaur museum. One tree man wasn't enough, though. Oh no, I had nearly 2,000 drops of moonlight juice, saved up from 50 years of nightly production. Each tree man costs 5 drops and 1 seed. So I went on a summoning spree. 30 minutes later, I was standing in front of 50 giant tree people, 10 oak tree men like Treebard, and 40 black iron treemen. The black iron ones are shorter, but built like refrigerators made of steel hardwood. Back on the southern continent, people use black iron wood for shields and wagon wheels, because it's basically natural armor plating. The downside, these guys have zero magical talent. They woke up and their only upgrade was skin got harder. That's it. They're the pure tanks of the treeman world. No spells, no nature powers, simply absolute units who exist to not die and hit things. The architect saw my tree army and almost fainted. His legs were shaking so hard, I thought he might vibrate through the floor. I told him Treebard would be his construction foreman, and he could barely stammer out. Why, we asked my lord. I named the new city Dam. The walls would be fortress grade, 18m high, 10 thick. You could literally ride horses on top of them. The architect had originally thought I was insane for wanting this. Now he was watching treemen casually pick up 3 Emers stone blocks weighing 20,000 pounds, like they were carrying grocery bags. I could practically see his brain recalculating everything. He thought he knew about construction timelines. By afternoon, the architect had marked out the wall positions with gray powder and Tishna, led the greater spirits in flattening and compacting the ground with earth-shaping magic. Foundation work that would normally take months done by dinner. Tomorrow we start stacking walls. This whole operation is running like a well-oiled machine staffed entirely by magical creatures who adore me. The architect simply stood there, watching treemen lift impossible boulders, fairies turn mud into granite, and his entire understanding of civil engineering crumble in real time. I think he's going to need therapy. The only downside he noticed was that treemen walk kind of slow. Yeah, buddy. That's the trade-off for having a 20m tall invincible lumberjack. I think we'll manage. That evening, Tishna curled up against me like a koala again. As a nature spirit, she's never been afraid of me, despite knowing I'm a legendary gold dragon. To her, all living things are equal. It's actually kind of nice having someone who treats you normally when everyone else is either terrified or worshipping you. I told her I'd be heading to Vern Fortress tomorrow, the capital of the province. It's the biggest city in the Flowing Cloud province, and most importantly, it has a slave market. I need workers, and I need them fast. Tishna would manage the territory while I go shopping. Time to buy some labor and build an empire. Employee orientation starts next week. Let me tell you about the economics of being a Northern Frontier Lord. They stink. The Alpha Kingdom offers all these generous development policies, tax exemptions, population grants, support packages. Sounds great on paper. In practice, tax exemptions mean nothing when your income is zero. It's like getting a coupon for a restaurant that doesn't exist yet. The whole kingdom is broke, by the way. Dead's last among human kingdoms in wealth. The southern 17 provinces are decent, but all that money gets vacuumed up, defending against yearly orc invasions. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open and a wild boar chewing on the pipes. That meant if I want workers, I'm buying them myself. Slave market in Vern Fortress. Here I come. I set sail with 200 guards. These guys already drank my diluted dragon blood, so they've got tiny dragon scales growing on their arms, chests, and thighs. Under full armor. You can't tell, but they're basically walking around with official night-level strength now. 200 kilometers of marching. Easy jog for them. I even cast a group speed buff because honestly, I didn't feel like spending all day on the road. A legendary dragon has places to be. The problem isn't getting there. It's getting back with thousands of fragile peasant slaves who might die from a long walk. The catch was that that's a tomorrow problem. Vern Fortress sits on the shore of Lake Vern, a massive inland lake, connected to a continental river. Beautiful location. Could have been paradise if it weren't parked next to an empire of war-crazed beast people. The place is run by the Halraven family, a marquee house. The current head is Marquis Halraven, a woman who also serves as provincial governor. Her family is legitimately powerful. They've got a full knight order made up entirely of family members, plus 2 elite standing legions. And it's still not enough. Here's the thing about fighting orcs. You lose even when you win. Training one elite human soldier costs years and mountains of gold. Killing him takes one lucky wild boar man with a pointy stick. On top of that, wild boarmen. Those things breed like actual pigs. 1 litter per year, 4 or 5 piglets each. Fully grown, combat-ready adults in 3 to 4 years. If food's plentiful, they pump out 2 litters annually. They're the world's most aggressive, self-replicating army. They're dumb as rocks, can't mine, can't forge weapons, and they fight each other constantly. But sheer numbers make up for everything. Every harvest season, hordes of them come south looking for food, and it never stops. Kill them all this year? Congratulations. An identical horde shows up next year. It's like fighting a lawn. You can mow it, but it's always coming back. On top of that, that's simply the raiding season. When the Orc Empire actually declares war, they send millions, including the heavy hitters, behemoths, and beermen. The wild boar men become cannon fodder, charging fortress walls by the 100,000 carrying homemade siege ladders. Decades ago, even Vern Fortress fell during a full invasion, despite having heavy garrisons and magic crystal cannons. The Alpha Kingdom only survived because the Human Council sent reinforcements. Without that help, the kingdom would have been chewed down to simply its central and southern provinces. So yeah, Marquis Horaven has a permanent migraine. Her strategy is basically harvest crops as fast as possible, stuff civilians into fortresses and pray. Open field battles against orcs are not even on the table. Win or lose, you're bankrupt either way. The catch was that here's where things got interesting. While reviewing her correspondence, the Marquis found a letter from the Kingdom of Rodland on the central continent. Apparently, Rodland recently went to war with the Half-Elf Kingdom, conquered several provinces, and captured a huge number of half-elf civilians and soldiers. On top of that, now, Rodland wants to sell them all as slaves across the world. Half-elf slaves, you say? Now that caught my attention. Regular farm workers are fine, but half-elves there. Smarter, more dexterous, live longer, and some of them are trained warriors. Looks like my shopping list simply got a major upgrade. That meant here's the backstory on why half-elf slaves are suddenly cheaper than discount groceries. The Kingdom of Rodland over on the central continent picked a fight with the half-elf kingdom, conquered several provinces, and ended up with a massive pile of half-elf prisoners. By then, they've got a problem. Keeping thousands of angry half-elves in your backyard is like storing dynamite next to a campfire. If war breaks out again, those prisoners become enemy reinforcements overnight. On top of that, if the half-elf kingdom rescues them, instant army refund. So Rodland's king said, ship them all out as far away as possible. They can't sell. them to neighboring kingdoms because those sneaky neighbors would simply secretly resell the half-elves back to the half-elf kingdom for profit while sabotaging Rodland's expansion. Everybody's playing 4D chess over there. So Rodland loaded the half-elves onto boats and shipped them to the farthest places they could find, including our lovely Alpha Kingdom. Their asking price. Basically, please simply take them. 3 gold coins per head. Normal half-elf slaves go for dozens of gold coins. This is like finding designer shoes at a thrift store. Rodland's nobles simply want to cover shipping costs. If they can't even do that, they'll probably accept a firm handshake and a thank you card. Horavan read the offer letter and was tempted, but ultimately passed. Smart woman. These half-elves simply lost their homeland to humans, and to them all humans look the same, so Rodland Alpha Kingdom doesn't matter. We're all the species that destroyed their homes. Buying thousands of freshly traumatized, revenge-hungry people and putting them to work in your fields is basically asking for a rebellion with every harvest. Anyway, 2 days later, I arrived at Vern Fortress with my 200 guards. 200 kilometers of forced march in full armor basically wrung them dry, even with their half-dragon upgrades. They needed a nap. Fair enough. First stop, the governor's office to register my identity. Most frontier knights do this before going to their territory. I did it backwards because I'm built different. Normally, showing up late like this would get you hassled by bureaucrats looking for bribes. The catch was that when the registration officer saw the king's personal seal on my papers, the snide remark he was loading up simply evaporated mid-breath, replaced instantly by a slimy smile. He stamped my paperwork with a special mark that basically tells every other official in the building, don't mess with this one. Without that mark, frontier knights have to grease palms simply to collect the supplies the kingdom already promised them. Lovely system seriously inspires confidence in government efficiency. I walked outside and immediately regretted having functioning nostrils. The main street was covered in human tea and animal waste. I've seen orc camps cleaner than this. Emily and Avila were behind me making disgusted faces. Their cute little noses scrunched up like they'd bitten into something rotten. I made a mental note. When I get back to Durham, the architect is adding public toilets to the city plan. My future city will not smell like the inside of a horse. A moment later, I hit the slave market, which was pretty underwhelming. Vern Fortress is supposedly the biggest city in the province, but the market was half empty because almost nobody voluntarily comes to develop land in a province that literally borders orc territory. The 9 northern provinces all offer frontier opportunities, and same people pick the ones that don't share a fence with millions of angry pigmen. The catch was that then I turned a corner and saw them. Rows and rows of half-elf slaves, men and women, faces completely blank with that thousand-y stare of people who've lost everything. On top of that, the price tags, 3 gold coins. 3 gold coins for a half-elf. That's human slave pricing for a superior product. This is the deal of the century. The Marquis might be too cautious to buy, but me, I'm a legendary dragon pretending to be a human lord who can brainwash people into loyalty with a passive aura. Potential rebellion isn't seriously a concern when your employees are slowly turning into dragon-blooded fanatics, whether they like it or not. Time to go shopping in bulk. Let me tell you about my financial situation. I'm loaded, absolutely swimming in gold. When other baby dragons were still crying for mommy to bring them dinner, I was already the size of a bus, hunting my own food and raiding evil organizations for pocket money. By the time I was a teenager in dragon years, I had over 1 million gold coins stashed away from a career of redistributing wealth from villains, black market dealers, dark cults, criminal syndicates. If you were evil and had treasure, I was basically your audit from heaven. The only setback was when I accidentally ate too many rare treasures and fell into a 20-year food coma while breaking through to legendary rank. Simply passed out in a cave for 2 decades. Imagine the world's most expensive nap. When I woke up, my investments had not grown because I don't have investments. I'm a dragon. I simply have a pile. Anyway, I could buy over 500,000 human slaves with my savings. Half-elves, even more. The catch was that here's the thing. My red dragon blood makes spending money physically painful. Every gold coin that leaves my hoard feels like losing a tooth. I'd much rather do business the dragon way. Take what I want and call it justice. That meant I walked into the slave market, and immediately, the manager spotted me. Can't blame him. I could have stand out as a legendary gold dragon in human form. I've got this natural aura of I'm better than you and we both know it. Plus, in a world where most nobles smell like they lost a fight with a barn, I'm suspiciously clean. Apparently, basic hygiene is such a luxury here that being shower fresh is basically a status symbol. The manager took one look at my magical noble outfit worth tens of thousands of gold by itself, and his sales instincts kicked into overdrive. Poor guy had been having a terrible week. The half-elf slaves were dirt cheap, 3 gold coins each. But nobody was buying. Why? Because every time a curious noble wandered over to browse, the half-elves would stop looking like defeated refugees and start looking like they were memorizing the noble's face for future revenge. Those dead hollow eyes would suddenly fill with pure murder. The nobles would take one look at those "I will slit your throat in your sleep" expressions and sprint to the human slave section. Instead, only the pretty female half-elves were selling. Everything else dead inventory. The manager even tried bundled sales. Buy 300 peasants, get a noble lady and a female knight free. But even medieval customers hate bundle deals apparently. He gave me the full tour, took to the back courtyard, where they had the premium inventory. Blacksmith, carpenters, weavers, tailor, scribes, brewers, leather workers, literally every profession a new territory could need. It was like a one-stop settlement starter kit. My territorial development brain was screaming, buy everything. But my red dragon blood was screaming louder, spend money, on purpose. I stood there having an internal crisis. On one hand, these half-elves are an incredible bargain and exactly what my territory needs. On the other hand, paying for things is spiritually offensive to me. I'm a dragon. We don't shop, we acquire. A moment later, I had a brilliant idea. Why am I haggling with the hired help when I could be negotiating with the boss? I'm a legendary gold dragon. My friendship alone should be worth more than this entire shipment of slaves. Do you know what it means to have a legendary gold dragon owe you a favor? Kings would sell their own mothers for that kind of connection. I turned to the manager and said, take me to your master. Time to see if my face is worth more than my wallet. Let the real negotiation begin. So, I walked into negotiations with Count Snow, a court noble from Rodland, who's basically a royal errand boy with a fancy title. His manager had brought him in, and the count was initially annoyed because the manager couldn't answer basic questions like, how many does this guy want to buy? Fair complaint, honestly. The catch was that the moment Snow saw me, his irritation vanished like a fart in the wind. My natural dragon nobility does that to people. We exchanged pleasantries, and he asked how many half-elves I wanted. I held up 5 fingers. 50,000. His pupils did that anime shrink thing. 50,000 half. Elves with craftsmen included. That's roughly 200,000 gold coins. A monster order. The catch was that then he started getting nervous. Selling 50,000 angry, revenge-fueled half-elves to one buyer. If they all revolted at once in Alpha Kingdom territory, it would be a catastrophe. On top of that, guess whose head would roll? His. He'd be the scapegoat faster than you can say. Diplomatic incident. He politely suggested I might not have enough soldiers to keep that many hostile slaves in line. Reasonable concern. Wrong customer. I leaned back on the couch, crossed my arms, and let the mask slip simply a little. My eyes shifted from normal golden to vertical gold dragon slits. Small golden scales crept across my face, and then I released simply a tiny pulse of dragon pressure. You know I am an apex predator, and you are a snack aura. The effect was immediate. Snow looked like someone dumped a bucket of ice water down his spine. His fancy clothes were instantly soaked with cold sweat. His knuckles went white. On his staff and his bodyguard, a Tier 8 Sky Knight. Mind you, one of the strongest warrior ranks, burst into the room to protect his boss and immediately collapsed. To his knees, gasping for air like a fish on dry land. This elite warrior, who could probably solo a small army, was kneeling there, wishing he could melt into the floor. He didn't even consider fighting back. That thought was physically impossible in the presence of my aura. I turned it off after a few seconds. Simply a taste. A legendary gold dragon. Snow's voice was shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Then, and I have to admire this man's survival instincts. He recovered in record time and went full customer service mode. Your Excellency, you may purchase as many as you wish. On top of that, to apologize for my terrible, unforgivable rudeness. Everything today is half price. Also, I have a special gift for you when you leave. Half price. I only showed my dragon eyes to prove I could handle rebellious slaves. On top of that, this man voluntarily slashed his entire inventory 50%. I wasn't even trying to haggle. This is the best thing that's happened to me since I found that evil cult's treasure room. Snow was visibly thanking every god he could name that I was a gold dragon. Gold dragons are the nice ones. If I'd been a red dragon, this meeting would have ended with a building on fire and 0 survivors. He knows it. I know it. The Sky Knight whimpering on the floor definitely knows it. Since he was giving me half off, I figured why stop at my original order. I threw in several thousand half-elf warriors on top of the 50,000 civilians and craftsmen. Final count, 54,000 half-elf slaves at half price. The catch: only 3,000 were available in Vern Fortress right now. The rest would take 40 days to deliver. On top of that, to sweeten things further, Snow offered free delivery to my territory. Door-to-door service. The man was so relieved. I didn't eat him that he was practically gift-wrapping the entire operation. As I walked out of that building, I couldn't help but smile. 54,000 workers. Half price. Free shipping. Didn't even have to reveal my full dragon form. Not spending money is truly the greatest feeling in the world. Well, technically I spent some money, but half-P price money barely counts. My red dragon blood is satisfied. After I left the trade hall, Count Snow practically broke the sound barrier, writing a letter to his king. He gave me half off on 54,000 slaves, and he was worried about getting fired. The catch was that, here's the thing, he didn't sell slaves at a discount. He bought a legendary gold dragon's friendship at a bargain. His king wrote back saying, "Great job, you magnificent genius. Because apparently my friendship is worth more than a few hundred. 0 gold coins." And honestly, they're right. Do you know how many problems a legendary gold dragon friend can solve? All of them. The answer is all of them. Rodland's kingdom has ambitions. They want to upgrade to an empire. They've been conquering territories, reforming policies, building power, having a legendary gold dragon in their contacts list. That's the kind of networking that makes empire building possible. That meant everybody's happy. They got a powerful ally. I got cheap labor. Capitalism at its finest. After the slave deal, I went shopping for boring stuff. Iron tools, grain supplies. It's late February and wheat planting starts at the end of March. I simply bought 54,000 mouths to feed, so I need to plow at least 100,000 acres of farmland, or I'll be buying grain forever. Luckily, my 20-some wheat and barley greater spirits can massively boost crop yields and keep the soil fertile without rotation. Medieval agricultural cheat codes, baby. My 200 guards marched out with the first batch of 3,000 half-elves, escorted by trade company soldiers. The trip back to Duran, half a month of walking, 200 kilometers with thousands of slow-moving civilians through dangerous orc territory. No nearby ports, no shortcuts. It's going to be the world's most stressful hiking trip. Naturally, a column of 3,000 half-elf slaves leaving the city under heavy guard attracted attention, including from Marquise Horvin herself. She read the report, frowned deeply, and sent her household butler to the trade company demanding answers. They told her the buyer was an exceptionally distinguished guest and gave her absolutely nothing else. She was furious, but couldn't do anything about it. I love being mysterious. A moment later, her people connected the dots. A new frontier knight with a blank background and the king's personal seal had recently registered at the governor's office. She ordered her butler to bring me in immediately. By then, here's some context about Marquise Horvin's strategy. She's actually smart. Unlike greedy nobles on other continents who gobble up smaller lords' territories, she wants frontier knights around. Why? Meat shields. When orcs raid south every year, they hit the frontier knights first. By the time they reach Horvin territory, they're either full or tired. On top of that, even if they're not, those frontier knights buy enough time for Horvin to harvest crops and lock down fortresses. Every frontier knight who sets up shop is basically a free buffer zone. Even if they fail and die, their family's investment in the territory still absorbs orc aggression that would have hit Halraven instead. Cold. Absolutely effective, undeniably. That meant when she heard a mysterious VIP with royal backing simply bought a small nation's worth of half-elves. She needed to know who I was. Her butler came to get me, and I strolled into Vern's inner fortress like I owned the place. The butler was getting increasingly irritated because I showed zero, and I mean zero, respect for the Marquise. Even princes and princesses showed deference to a border governor. I simply walked around, examining everything with the energy of a real estate appraiser, deciding whether to buy the building. A moment later, I entered her study, and there she was, Marquise Halron, sitting on a sofa in a deep blue velvet dress, embroidered with gold vine patterns. The sunlight was hitting her at exactly the right angle, illuminating her pale neck, bare shoulders, and a chest area that was generously presented. The dress hugged every curve like it was painted on. Did my eyes linger on certain areas for slightly longer than strictly diplomatic? According to her feminine intuition? Yes, absolutely yes. Look, I'm a dragon, not a monk, and my red dragon blood has opinions about beautiful women. Strong opinions. The Marquise noticed, and she frowned. Her butler noticed me noticing, and he frowned even harder. The catch was that I'm a legendary gold dragon wearing the king's seal. What are they going to do? Write me a citation for aggressive eye contact. This meeting was about to get very interesting. That meant, let me tell you about my meeting with Marcus Horan, or as I now know her, CLA. One thing led to another. Look, I went into that study expecting a political conversation about territorial boundaries and mutual defense agreements. What I did not expect was to end up in the tiny bedroom behind her office as the sun set through the windows. The catch was that here we are. Life is full of surprises. Playa is a fifth-tier silver knight, which sounds impressive until you learn. She got there by dumping enough resources to train 4 or 5 silver knights into a just herself. Her natural talent is basically a participation trophy, but I respect the hustle. She needed combat ability because orc assassins regularly try to murder border governors. She can't beat a real assassin, but she can survive long enough for bodyguards to show up. That's the bar. She cleared it. None of that silver knight toughness helped her legs stop shaking afterwards, though. She stood up, looked down at herself, turned approximately the color of a tomato, took a deep breath, and with impressive professionalism, asked, "Are you satisfied?" Sir Hardy, I have to hand it to this woman. Her brain was still in maximize political advantage mode, even while her legs were doing jazz hands. That's a true politician. She's not even mad about what happened. Apparently betting a legendary gold dragon is the kind of bragging rights that noble ladies would kill for. She simply can't tell anyone, because she's a border governor, not some socialite at a tea party. If she were a regular noble woman, her girlfriends would never hear the end of it. I pulled her back into my arms with a little wind magic. She let out a surprised yelp and flew right into me. Her body went stiff for a second, then melted. 2 pale arms wrapped around my neck, and she pressed herself against me, like I was the last warm thing in winter. I made her a promise. Draugr would take root on the border and share the burden of defending against orcs. On top of that, if the Orc Empire ever launched a full-scale invasion, I'd personally guarantee the Halvan family survival. To be completely real, that promise cost me nothing. I was already planning to stay. On top of that, evacuating a few people during a major invasion. A legendary dragon can slip past any orc blockade without being detected. Tier 8 warriors might get trapped, but legends move freely. The orcs know better than to deploy their own legends casually, too. Last time, they went all out 200 years ago. The entire human race temporarily stopped fighting each other and nearly wiped the Orc Empire off the map. Other races tried to backstab humanity during that war, and they've been getting systematically punished ever since. The half-elf kingdom Exhibit A. So both sides keep their legends on the bench during normal invasions. Gentleman's agreement enforced by the threat of extinction. For CLA, though, my empty promise was worth gold. Her situation is genuinely rough. Her husband is a bishop of the Justice Church who lives permanently in the capital. On top of that, how do I put this delicately? Prefers life away from his wife and family. They barely talk. When he does visit, it's pure formality. She's been running an entire border province alone, dealing with orc threats, year-round, and hasn't relaxed in longer than she can remember. After getting my promise, she simply closed her eyes and rested her head on my shoulder out like a light in seconds. I sat there patting her smooth back, actually feeling a bit sympathetic. Being a border governor married to an absent husband who doesn't even like women, that's rough. Plus, the next full-scale orc invasion is coming soon. The last one was 50 years ago, and orcs breed so fast that even constant infighting and cannibalism can't keep their population down. Within the next few years, millions of them will come pouring south again. Client knows this. That's why she grabbed onto me so fast. A legendary gold dragon ally isn't simply nice to have. It might be the difference between her family surviving or becoming a footnote in history. On top of that, I got a powerful political ally, provincial support, and a close alliance with an attractive governor, all without spending a single extra gold coin. Red Dragon Blood. We approve of this acquisition. Gold Dragon Blood. We help people today, both bloods. We are a genius. Let me break down the geopolitics of being a northern meat shield, because Clyde doesn't seem to get it. The Orc Empire's population problem works like this. They breed so fast that every 50 years or so, the grasslands literally can't feed them all anymore. Different orc tribes start eyeing each other's lunch. Tensions spike, and the behemoth royal family goes, "Hey, instead of eating each other, let's go eat the humans." It's basically a controlled population dump. They invade, burn through a few million bottom-tier orcs against human fortresses, and once the cannon fodder is sufficiently thinned out, everyone goes home. War over population managed. See you in 50 years. On top of that, Flowing Cloud Province first to fall every single time. The kingdom mobilizes its armies when orcs start moving. The catch was that mobilization takes time, and this province doesn't have that time. It gets steamrolled while the main army is still putting its boots on. A moment later, the kingdom fights a war of attrition, eventually pushes the orcs back and hands the smoldering ruins back to the Horan family. Here you go. Good ass. Well, it existed once. Clea thinks the kingdom gives them their land back out of gratitude for 200 years of loyal service. That's adorable. The real reason is nobody else wants this cursed territory. It's like being rewarded with a house that burns down every few decades. Other nobles would rather eat glass than govern Flowing Cloud Province. The Central Province nobles are especially terrified. If all 9 northern provinces collapse, they become the new border. On top of that, they want absolutely in no part of that. So everyone chips in a little to rebuild Halraven after each invasion. Not out of kindness, out of self-preservation. Please keep being our meat shield. Here's some money. Don't die permanently. Anyway, that evening I was sitting in class study, looking at an incredibly detailed map she'd given me. Way better than the king's version. It showed every mineral deposit, every danger zone, everything. On top of that, right there, west of Durham, an iron mine, a big one. Only problem, it's infested with goblins and kobolds. By then, for any normal noble, clearing that mine would require a small army, constant patrols, and endless headaches, because these creatures breed like rabbits on caffeine. Kobolds lay 2 to 4 eggs 2 to 3 times a year, and their babies become combat ready in simply a few years. The catch was that for me, I'd simply show up in dragon form, and the kobolds will literally worship me. These scaly little weirdos are obsessed with dragons. They think they're related to us. Show them a real dragon, and they'll trip over themselves, pledging eternal loyalty. Free miners, 0 recruitment costs. Are kobolds kind of useless in many ways? Sure, but they're free useless. On top of that, free is my favorite price. Clea was incredibly jealous of this ability. Why do they worship dragons? She kept asking. I don't know, lady. Why do cats like boxes? Some things simply are. A moment later, came the business deal. While Clea was napping earlier, I proposed a trade. I'd help evolve one of her family's small spirits into a greater spirit. On top of that, in return, she'd give me 10 different types of spirit bugs. I need variety. Peanut bugs for oil production, birch bugs for quality timber, grape bugs for wine. Diversity is the spice of territorial development. She was skeptical but agreed because the deal was risk-free for her. I only collect payment after success. On top of that, honestly, 10 spirit bugs versus 1 greater spirit. That's like trading a handful of seeds for a golden goose. She'd be crazy to refuse. Her knights brought in a barley small spirits host plant. Mid-tier performer covers about 300 acres of increased yield. She deliberately picked something she could afford to lose simply in case. Smart woman. Cautious. I like that. A moment later, I squeezed out 1 drop of moonlight juice onto the plant. What happened next broke Clea's brain. The plant started growing and transforming instantly. The small spirit entered evolution mode right before her eyes. She stood there frozen, mouth slightly open, mental gears grinding so hard I could almost smell smoke. Here's the thing. 1 drop of my juice can evolve a basic spirit bug straight into a greater spirit. The catch was that I'm not about to demonstrate that level of cheatability. That's the kind of thing that gets you kidnapped by desperate kingdoms. Instead, I made it look like I merely helped a small spirit break through its natural evolution bottleneck. Much more digestible for normal people. Humans always accept things that fit within their existing understanding. Mysterious catalyst is fine. Literally rewrites the laws of nature. Tends to cause panic. A few minutes later, the tiny spirit that used to be a few dozen centimeters tall had become a full 1.4 m greater spirit. She stood there blinking with the most confused expression I've ever seen on a magical creature. Like she'd fallen asleep, a caterpillar, and woken up a butterfly, and nobody had explained the middle part. Claw stared at her new greater spirit, then stared at me, then stared at the spirit again. I could practically hear her thoughts recalculating exactly how valuable I was as an ally. The answer is very valuable. That meant the barley spirit evolved and immediately looked at her own hands like she'd simply woken up from the Matrix. Clea, I evolved? Yes, sweetie. Welcome to the big leagues. Let me give you the math on why CLA was hyperventilating. Without a greater spirit, 4,000 acres of land produces about 390,000 pounds of grain per year, and a third of that land has to rest each season. With a greater spirit, all 4,000 acres work year-round. Each acre jumps from 150 pound to 400 plus. Total output 1.6 million. That's a 4 times multiplier from 1 single upgrade. On top of that, Some of the crops randomly evolve into spirit grain that boosts night training speed. It's basically turning a regular farm into a magic super farm. Clea's breathing got so heavy that her chest was doing its own little earthquake. I'm sitting there arms crossed, completely unbothered, because I have 20-some greater spirits at home. This is like watching someone lose their mind over finding a 20 bill when you've got a vault full of gold bars. She calmed down barely and offered me 15 spirit bugs instead of the agreed 10. 5 bonus bugs, no charge. Simply please be my friend forever. A moment later, she positioned herself behind my chair, started massaging my shoulders, and purred, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" This woman is a born politician. Even while trembling with excitement, she had the self-control not to beg for more greater spirits. She knew that looking greedy would cost her more in the long run than any short-term gain. Instead, she chose to demonstrate her value through other means. Her dress happened to fall off. These things happen. Physics is unpredictable. I spent the next 10-plus days at Vern Fortress, with CLA discussing territorial strategy. When I finally left, she watched me go with the kind of look usually reserved for soldiers shipping off to war. Her deadweight husband, who lives in the capital and visits maybe once a year, can rot. She's got a legendary gold dragon boyfriend now. Significant upgrade. I flew back to Durham in dragon form, all 200 of magnificent golden glory, and deliberately smashed through the clouds with a thunderous roar as I approached camp. Why? Because the first batch of 3,000 half-elf slaves had arrived, and they needed an orientation meeting. I landed like a meteor. The ground shook so hard that half-elves were falling over. These people had been glaring at my guards with, "We'll murder you all in your sleep" energy for 2 weeks straight. Real tough crowd. The catch was that when a 200-meter golden dragon drops out of the sky and stares at you with cold reptilian eyes, attitude adjustment instant. Some fainted on the spot. The rest couldn't stop shaking. You could practically see their brains short-circuiting. Wait, the guy who bought us was a dragon. We were planning a rebellion against a dragon. Oh no, oh no, no, no. I hit them with my full dragon voice dripping with authority. I am Hardy from today. I am your master. Did I sound like a gold dragon? Not seriously. I sounded more like a red dragon. The ones famous for being tyrannical overlords. The catch was that, hey, sometimes you got to channel your mother's side of the family. Kindness is for after they stop plotting murder. One by one, every half-elf dropped to their knees. Rebellion canceled. Employee onboarding complete. On top of that, there's more coming. A second batch of 6,000 half-elves had already left Vern Fortress and was on its way. Count Snow even gave me insider intel. Rodland plans to fully destroy the half-elf kingdom within 2 to 5 years. Total annihilation as a sovereign state. When that happens, there will be another massive wave of half-elf slaves available. The catch was that, here's the catch. Once the half-elf kingdom is gone, Rodland won't need to desperately dump prisoners anymore. Prices go back up. Buy now while supplies last. Limited time offer. Black Friday for half-elves. I'm seriously considering placing a bulk pre-order. You know, like subscribing to a meal kit service. Except the meals are sentient and can farm. My red dragon blood has never been happier. Massive workforce acquired. Practically free iron mine waiting to be claimed. Territory developing at warp speed. And I haven't even been here a month yet. The jogger is about to go from abandoned wasteland to boomtown. On top of that, all it cost me was some discounted gold, a few drops of moonlight juice, and whatever dignity Clyde's absent husband had left. I was honestly a little disappointed by how fast the half-elves gave up. I had a whole plan ready. If any of them kept acting tough after seeing my true form, I was going to ship them off to the goblin mines. I had the logistics worked out and everything. But nope. One look at 200 of Golden Dragon, and every single one of them folded like cheap lawn chairs. 3,000 half-elves instantly obedient. Not even one dramatic holdout screaming, "I'd rather die." Come on, people. Where's your fighting spirit? Give me something to work with. To be fair, I get it. Submitting to a dragon is psychologically way easier than submitting to humans who destroyed your homeland. There's no personal grudge between them and me. Plus, I'm literally the size of a mountain. Hard to maintain rebellious energy when your new boss could accidentally step on your entire village. By then, among the regular slaves, Count Snow had tucked in a special gift about a dozen half-elf noble girls. Even after 2 weeks of marching through the wilderness, looking like absolute disasters, these girls still had that natural beauty and aristocratic grace shining through. Half-elf nobles generally have stronger elf blood, which means prettier faces. But let's say the elf genetics aren't always generous in certain departments, though there are exceptions. Elf genes aren't all flat terrain. Some half-elves inherit the human sides. Architecture. I looked at these shivering noble girls and saw exactly what I needed. Managers. They can read. They can think. They can follow complex instructions. Regular half-elf. Peasants are great for farming, but someone needs to organize thousands of incoming workers, manage logistics, handle paperwork. These girls were born and raised for administration. Loyalty concerns, please. I fed them a few drops of diluted dragon blood, and within minutes, they went from terrified prisoners to devoted servants. The transformation was beautiful. One moment, they're staring at me like I'm death incarnate. The next, they're bowing respectfully and asking for their first assignments. Dragon Blood Conversion is the world's fastest corporate onboarding program. The rest of the half-elves, not wasting precious dragon blood on 50,000 peasants. My passive dragon aura will handle them over the next few months. Simply by living near me, they'll slowly sprout little scales and develop unshakable loyalty. It's like secondhand smoke, except instead of cancer, you get devotion. The noble girls got straight to work sorting craftsmen from civilians, organizing construction crews, set up kitchens. Elsewhere, Trebard and the Treeman had already finished the outer walls of Durham while I was away. 18 high, 10 thick fortress-grade walls done. They were now building my inner castle, a 400 square fortress in the center of the city, my future palace. 2 weeks of construction and my city already has better walls than places that took decades to build. Magic tree labor hits different, but we're still missing something critical. Horses and livestock. Now I could buy them. Regular war horses cost 10 plus gold coins. Quality ones are dozens. Magical blooded premium war horses, hundreds of gold each. On top of that, here's the real scam. Every war you buy has been castrated. You can never breed your own herd from purchased horses. It's the medieval equivalent of printer ink business models. Sell you the product. Make sure you keep coming back forever. You know what? No, I'm a dragon. I have red dragon blood. I don't buy horses. I go to the orc grasslands and borrow them permanently. I told Tishna to have the half-elves build stables and livestock pens first. Once those are ready, making a shopping trip to the grasslands. Regular livestock. Any York tribe has those. War horses. Got to hit the centaur tribes. They're the only ones who breed proper horse herds. Actually, come to think of it, I should probably borrow some centaurs too. I've only got a handful of horse handlers among my half-elf craftsmen. Can't maintain 1,000 horses with 3 guys. The centaurs can take care of the horses they used to own. It's poetic, seriously efficient, even. They already know which ones bite. My gold dragon side says we should negotiate peacefully. My red dragon side says we should take what we want. My pragmatic side says fly over in dragon form. They'll volunteer. I love internal consensus. First order of business at the new horse ranch. Plant a purple alfalfa spirit grass. This stuff is premium horse feed. Mix it with regular grass and you get top quality war horses. I dropped 1 drop of moonlight juice on the little plant, and it shot up from 1 to 3 in seconds, looking less like grass and more like an enthusiastic small tree bee. The spirit bug on my shoulder simultaneously evolved through bug form, tiny fairy form, and full greater spirit form in about 3 minutes flat. The newly born purple alfalfa greater spirit. I named her Zua, immediately launched herself into my chest and started nuzzling me like a kitten. Unlike the modestly built Tishna, Zua came equipped with impressive natural endowments. She was also wearing nothing but a grass skirt made of woven alfalfa, simply standing there, acres of pale skin on display, snuggling against me while declaring she'd grow the best supernatural alfalfa ever. On top of that, she can. Her enhanced alfalfa fed to horses long-term can upgrade regular horses into supernatural war horses. They'd be bottom-tier supernatural horses, sure, but we can make up for quality with quantity. Grow enough magic grass. Sell what the horses don't eat as premium feed to other nobles. On top of that, boom, entire industry built from 1 plant and 1 fairy girl. After that, I planted 2 white birch spirit plants for timber production and a white mulberry for silkworm farming. Why silkworms? Because high-quality silk is basically currency among nobles. On top of that, more specifically, Tia and all my other spirit girls have developed a taste for silk stockings. White ones, which cost 5 gold coins per pair, more expensive than a half-elf slave per pair. On top of that, they go through them quickly. How quickly? Let's not discuss the specifics. Let's simply say the consumption rate is unsustainable without domestic production. Also, for the record, silk stockings in this world were originally invented for male nobles to wear while jousting and attending court. Over time, they became a women's thing, and the styles evolved considerably. Central continent nobles still rock them. Alpha Kingdom nobles don't. but only because they're too broke. A pair lasts maybe 3 days. Can't afford that when your neighbor is an orc who wants to eat your family. That evening, I was lying in my tent with my head on Tissa's soft lap, while Avila and Emily knelt beside me in spaghetti strap, nightgowns, and white stockings, giving me a massage. My hands may have wandered to their delicate feet. They blushed, but didn't complain. Dragon elf girls are wonderfully flexible. They can do all sorts of impressive poses. Born from thousand-year red lotus flowers, you'd expect fire-type personalities, but they're actually the gentlest creatures alive. Even when my hands got adventurous, they simply blushed harder and snuggled closer. Their one lifelong grievance. Despite being nature's chosen children, they inherited the elf gene for flatness. Every time they look down, they feel personally betrayed by genetics. We're nature spirits. We simply have elf in the name. Why do we get the elf chest? Life is truly unfair. Elsewhere, I took stock of the territory. All 500 guards have broken through to official knight rank thanks to golden-veined blood orchids. Their dragon scales are still subtle, small gold patches on the chest area, invisible under armor. Eventually, they might grow horns and wings, but never full body scales. 500 official knights would make most baron families weep with jealousy. An average baron has maybe 15. On top of that, my half-dragon knights are stronger than regular knights thanks to dragon blood. They simply lack combat experience, which time will fix. With the first 3,000 half-elves handling construction and daily operations, my knights are finally free to train full-time. Another 50,000 plus half-elves are being delivered over the next month, including several thousand trained warriors. Once everyone arrives, Durham will have the population of Aaron's territory, but the military power to crush most Viscount territories. The only thing my knights lack horses. The catch was that that's tomorrow's problem. Tomorrow, I visit the orc grasslands for some friendly borrowing. My approach to territory management is a simulation game. I've already activated the unlimited resources cheat, but I'm not turning on God mode. Where's the fun in being invincible? I want to enjoy the process. Build gradually. Watch things grow. Savor the Lord lifestyle. I have centuries of lifespan ahead of me. No rush. It's simply that my version of gradual development looks like hyperspeed to everyone else. Small cheats don't count as cheating. That's my motto. Quick update on Isla and Emily's ongoing existential crisis. They saw the half-elf noble girls and their generous proportions. A moment later, they looked at the cat girl maids I brought back from the smuggler raid. Even the cat girls were bigger than them. I told them small is cute, too. But they weren't buying it. Dragon elf genetics seriously did them dirty in one specific department. Nature's children blessed with immense magical power, devastating combat ability, eternal youth, and an AUP. The universe has a sense of humor. Anyway, time for the important stuff. West of Durham lies the Moses land, and inside it sits a beautiful iron mine simply waiting for me. Iron is everything out here. You need it for farming tools, weapons, armor, literally all of civilization. I could buy iron like a normal person. The catch was that you know what's better than buying iron? Having an entire mine, staffed by free workers who worship you as a living god. The wasteland is crawling with monsters that would make any normal lord turn around and go home crying. Hobgoblins, not the little green idiots, but the big ones. 2 meters tall, militarily disciplined, organized into actual tactical units. Each hobgoblin tribe has hundreds of fighters, plus regular goblins as cannon fodder, plus bugbears as shock troops. One tribe alone would wreck most frontier knights. On top of that, there are multiple tribes in this wasteland. The biggest one reportedly has hundreds of hobgoblins, dozens of bugbears, organized wolf cavalry, and massive infantry formations. Even established viscounts would sweat at that. For anyone else, nightmare territory. For me, employee orientation day. I flew over in dragon form with Avila and Emily behind me in their red dragon shapes. See, I'm a gold dragon, but my dragon elf girls awaken different bloodlines. Tina got gold dragon Isla, and Emily got red dragon. On top of that, monsters like hobgoblins and kobolds, they love red dragons. Red dragons are their ideal bosses. Cruel, domineering, fond of conquest. It's a cultural match made in hell. First stop, the iron mine, currently occupied by the blood fawn cobalt tribe. About 1,000 kobolds, which is huge for this barren wasteland. They were busy mining away, pushing little carts in and out of tunnels like scaly medieval factory workers. I burst through the clouds above their camp and let out a roar that literally blew some of them off their feet. Hundreds of kobolds scattered like startled lizards. Some fainted from the dragon pressure, but the smart ones, they dropped to their knees with expressions of absolute ecstasy on their little faces. like they'd simply seen their messiah descend from heaven, which from their perspective, I had. Their chief, Bloodfang, was actually interesting. A kobold who'd awakened red dragon bloodline and become a tier 2 dragon blood sorcerer. Quite the overachiever for a creature that's 85 centimeters tall. He's also an Uring cobalt subspecies. Little bat wings on his back, can fly at low altitude. Combat power still terrible, but for a cobalt intellectual, he's impressive. Here's the funny part. Bloodfang is a red dragon bloodline sorcerer, meaning he can sense draconic lineage. So when he looked at me, a gold dragon, his blood started resonating because I have red dragon blood too. He stared at my golden scales, looked down at his own bright red ones, and I could see his tiny brain melting. Wait, my blood is reacting to this gold dragon. Did I actually awaken gold dragon blood? Have I been wrong this whole time? He didn't dare question me. So he questioned himself. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Without me saying a single word, he ran over and threw himself on the ground. Bloodfang greets the great master. Smart little guy. I like him already. The entire Bloodfang tribe is now mine. Not one objection from any kobold. Serving a dragon is literally their greatest dream. Sure, I'm technically a gold dragon, which is kind of weird for creatures who usually prefer evil red dragons. The catch was that when your new boss is 200 long, you don't nitpick his color scheme. I looked down at Bloodfang and asked, "Are there other cobalt tribes nearby?" His eyes lit up. Yes, many free miners, free soldiers, free everything. This wasteland isn't a problem zone. It's an untapped labor reservoir. The iron mine, the hobgoblin army, the cobalt workforce, all of it acquired for the low price of showing up and being a dragon. I love this job. Bloodfang puffed out his tiny chest and told me his tribe was the biggest cobalt group in the area. Cute. I patted him on the metaphorical head and sent Avila and Emily to round up every other cobalt tribe in the vicinity. My plan is simple. Consolidate all cobalts into one mega colony. Run 3 shifts of round-the-clock mining, and let my passive dragon aura slowly beef them all up. The aura thickens their dragon blood over time, which makes them stronger, bigger, and more likely to evolve into dragon blood sorcerers, or Urs. By then, you're currently pretty useless. Tiny flying kobolds with bat wings and 0 combat power. The catch was that, here is where I am playing the long game. As their dragon blood concentrates, their bodies will eventually reach the size of Dragonborn. A legitimate intelligent race standing 2 meters tall and weighing nearly 300 pounds. Dragonborn are born warriors with incredible strength. Now, imagine a dragonborn-ized steer that can actually fly. That is an aerial combat unit worth having. It will take years, maybe decades, but I have centuries of life ahead. Patience is a dragon virtue. Well, a gold dragon virtue. Red dragons have no patience. I conveniently switch between the two depending on the situation. Quick biology lesson. Since people always confuse these terms, half-dragons are children of actual dragons and humanoid races, or in my case, humans transformed by dragon blood. Like my guard unit, Dragonborn are a completely separate species, supposedly created by the dragon gods. They look humanoid with scales, dragon heads, horns, and claws, but no wings or tails. Very different things. My guards are half-dragons. Bloodfang dreams of being dragonborn-sized. Neither group appreciates being mislabeled. While scouting the mine, Bloodfang casually mentioned that his tribe was enslaved by a Miner tribe outside the wasteland. Every month they had to deliver a quota of iron ore. On top of that, if they came up short, the Minotaurs would slaughter kobolds until morale improved. Classic management style. The Minotaurs in this world are not the gentle, misunderstood creatures some fantasy stories portray. They average 2.5 meters tall, covered in muscle, swinging single-handed axes that weigh more than an entire kobold. After centuries inside the Orc Empire's brutal survival of the fittest culture, any trace of friendliness has been thoroughly beaten out of them. The catch was that when I heard Minotaur, my brain immediately went somewhere practical. Spring plowing starts in a few weeks. Doctor has 0 oxen and 0 horses. You know what is basically an ox that can also hold a plow? A Minotaur. Problem solved. I am going to recruit some Minotaurs for agricultural purposes. Whether they volunteer or get voluntold remains to be seen. By nightfall, Avila and Emily returned with results. The Bloodfang tribe had absorbed all the nearby cobalt groups and swelled from 1,000 to over 3,000. On top of that, that is not even close to the total cobalt population in the Mosul wasteland. I simply stopped because 3,000 is already more miners than I currently need. Quality problem to have. Feeding 3,000 cobalts sounds expensive, but I handled it elegantly. I planted an oyster mushroom spirit grass in their caves. Kobolds already know how to grow mushrooms underground. and with the spirit plant boosting production, they can harvest weekly at several times the normal yield. The enhanced mushrooms are also more nutritious, so the kobolds will not develop health problems from an all-fungus diet. Self-sustaining food supply, zero ongoing cost. I am basically running a closed-loop economy powered by magical agriculture. I contacted Klaya through a magic communication device and asked her to acquire more mushroom spirit bugs for me. Bloodfang had revealed that the Mosul wasteland contains not simply iron but also copper deposits, coal deposits, and deep inside a rumored magic crystal mine. Magic crystals power everything from enchanted weapons to city defenses. They are this world's equivalent of petroleum. I need cobalt colonies at every mine, and every colony needs a mushroom farm. Hence the bulk mushroom bug order to tighten my control over the Bloodfang tribe. I gave Bloodfang himself 1 drop of my dragon blood. Simply 1 drop. The catch was that I am a legendary tier dragon. So 1 drop is basically a nuclear injection for a tiny cobalt body. Bloodfang immediately evolved into an ancient cobalt, a throwback to a lost era when kobolds had their own civilization. Spoke ancient, draconic, and were significantly larger and smarter than modern kobolds. The transformation was dramatic. Bloodfang shot up from 85 centimeters to 1.5 meters. His red scales became vivid and brilliant. His pathetic bat wings reshaped into proper miniature dragon wings. His power level jumped to tier 3. Among kobolds, he now looks like a small giant, a legendary figure, walking among his people. He immediately started parading through the tribe, showing off his new body. On top of that, I could tell he was desperately searching for me, so he could demonstrate his undying devotion. If psychopancy were an Olympic sport, Bloodfang would take gold, silver, and bronze. Elsewhere, back in Burn Fortress, Clea was lounging in her study, thinking about my request for mushroom bugs, and also thinking about me. Apparently, her cheeks were doing that blushing thing again, and her usually sharp eyes went a bit dreamy. She admitted to herself that dragons are exceptionally talented in certain private departments. After collecting herself, she summoned her female steward and authorized premium prices for mushroom spirit bugs. Get it done fast. Clea knows exactly why I want those bugs. She knows about the Mosul wasteland mines. Every deposit, every danger. The Horavan family has detailed intelligence on the entire region. That rumored magic crystal mine deep in the wasteland. Not a rumor at all. Confirmed real. The Horavan family simply never had the military strength to claim it. Thousands of hobgoblins, bugbears, and other monsters stand between civilization and those crystals. For them, it is an impossible dream. For me, it is next Tuesday's schedule. Show up, roar, collect worshippers, start mining. The Dragon recruitment program continues to deliver results at zero cost. Klasa is sitting in her study doing the math on my Mosul wasteland takeover, and I can practically feel her jealousy radiating through the magic communication device. She knows every mineral deposit in that wasteland. Iron, copper, coal, and the crown jewel, a confirmed magic crystal mine buried deep inside. Not rumored, confirmed. The Horavan family has known about it for years, but never had the firepower to claim it. The economics are maddening for her. Simply selling raw ore from those mines would net 20 to 30,000 gold coins annually. Processes it into steel and forge weapons and armor, over 1 million gold per year. On top of that, in a kingdom that fights orcs constantly, military equipment sells itself. The only problem is customers paying with IUs, because the royal government is perpetually broke. Every time the Orc Empire invades, the big noble families become involuntary creditors to the crown, collecting stacks of promises that take 30 years to pay off. No interest, either, unless the kingdom is feeling generous, which it never is. The catch was that Clay could never touch those mines. The upfront investment to clear out thousands of monsters would bankrupt multiple noble houses combined. On top of that, even if they succeeded, one orc raiding party smashing through the mining operations would destroy everything before they recovered costs. The Minotaurs collecting protection fees from kobolds are simply middlemen working for even bigger orc bosses deeper in the grasslands. The whole wasteland is technically under orcs' sphere of influence. For me, though, I walk in, roar once, and every kobold tribe pledges eternal service. The hobgoblins will follow once I visit them with Avila and Emily in red dragon form. Free miners, free soldiers, free everything. My total investment, a few drops of moonlight juice for mushroom farms. Playa is over there calculating millions in theoretical revenue while grinding her teeth. She is very glad I am a gold dragon and not a red one. A legendary red dragon setting up a military-industrial complex next door would give every governor in 3 provinces chronic insomnia. A gold dragon doing it that is a strategic asset she can cozy up to. Literally, The Mosul Wasteland is not simply a mining paradise either. It is crawling with hobgoblins, big, disciplined, militarily organized monsters that are basically born soldiers. Each hobgoblin tribe operates like a small army with strict hierarchy and tactical training. Gather them all together under my banner, and I instantly have a professional infantry force. Give them a few decades of proper feeding and equipping. I would have a fully armored hobgoblin heavy infantry legion. Thousands of 2M tall warriors in steel plate marching in formation. The kind of force that makes orc war bands reconsider their life choices. Between the cobalt miners, the hobgoblin army, the treeman construction crew, the half-elf workforce, and my half-dragon night guard, Dam is shaping up to be the most terrifyingly well-staffed territory in the entire northern frontier. On top of that, I have been here less than a month. While I was surveying the wasteland, I remembered something Bloodfang mentioned. There used to be wild giants roaming this area. That triggered a thought I had been sitting on for a while. Cloud giants. Every self-respecting gold dragon has cloud giant retainers. It is practically tradition. Cloud giants are the civilized branch of the giant family. Pale blue or milky white skin, incredibly strong. An adult cloud giant matches a 5th-tier silver knight in raw physical power simply from existing. No training required. With training, they get even scarier. They are not simply muscle-bound idiots either. Cloud giants have actual civilization. Weaving, metalwork, animal husbandry, agriculture, construction. They live in small family groups on mountaintops or floating cloud islands, which is why finding them is such a pain. The traditional arrangement between gold dragons and cloud giants is technically an equal contract. Cloud giants guard the dragon's castle, and the dragon provides military protection. In practice, though, when one party is a legendary dragon and the other is a tier 5 giant, equal is a generous description. It is more like an employer-employee relationship where the employer could eat you. The catch was that the cloud giants seemed fine with this arrangement because having a legendary dragon as your security system means nobody bothers you ever again. I want a few hundred of them. That sounds like a lot. The catch was that cloud giants live scattered across remote mountain ranges in tiny family groups. Collecting several hundred means finding dozens of separate families and convincing each one individually. It will take time and effort, which is why I outsourced the search to Claw. I sent her a message through the magic communication device I left with her. The device has a 20-character limit per transmission, so my request was brutally concise. Find cloud giants. Payment spirit evolution elegant in its simplicity. When Clea received the message, her first reaction was frustration. Cloud giants live on unreachable mountaintops and floating islands. Finding them is genuinely difficult, even for a powerful marquee house with extensive intelligence networks. The catch was that then she processed the payment offer. More spirit evolutions. Multiple greater spirits for the Halraven family. Her eyes probably turned into gold coins. The strategic calculation is obvious. Multiple greater spirits means massively increased food production, which means stronger armies, which means maybe, simply maybe, Vern Fortress could survive the next full-scale orc invasion without falling. That has never happened in the province's history. Every single time the orcs go all out, Flowing Cloud Province collapses. If Clay could change that, she would cement the Horan family's legacy for generations. So she made her decision immediately. Deploy the full depth of the Horavan family's connections. Every contact, every informant, every allied house that owes them favors. Finding cloud giants is hard, but when the reward is this good, hard becomes worthwhile. She would turn the family network inside out if necessary. Cloud giants also raise griffins as companion animals. If I recruit enough giants, I might get a griffin cavalry force as a bonus. An aerial knight squadron riding armored predatory birds. That alone would change the military balance of the entire region. Ground armies are powerful, but air superiority wins wars. Of course, recruiting several hundred cloud giants is the ambitious target. Realistically, I might start with a few dozen families and build from there. The catch was that even 30 cloud giants defending Durham's walls would make any attacking army deeply uncomfortable. Imagine charging a fortress and seeing 10-meter-tall blue-kinned warriors on the battlements hurling boulders the size of wagons at your formation. Most armies would simply choose a different target. Between the cloud giant search, the cobalt mining expansion, the mushroom farm logistics, and the upcoming spring planting season, I have a lot of balls in the air. Good thing I have a provincial governor handling my errands, a dragon elf managing my territory, and an army of magical creatures building my city. Being a dragon lord is busy work, but it beats sleeping in a cave for 20 years. Half a month passed, and I now own the entire Mosul wasteland, all 170,000 square km of it. Let that sink in. An area almost as big as the entire Flowing Cloud province, conquered in 2 weeks by one dragon, who mostly simply showed up and looked intimidating. The land is barren and terrible for farming, but underground pure treasure. Iron, copper, coal, and somewhere deep inside, magic crystals. The surface is worthless. The basement is priceless. My first order of business, after claiming the Bloodfang tribe, was infrastructure. I dispatched 2 greater spirits and 10 black iron tree men to start building a stone road from Duram's west gate to the mining colony. Simultaneously, dozens of half-elf craftsmen marched out to Bloodfang's territory because I am building blast furnaces there. The coal deposits are nearby, so smelting on site makes way more logistical sense than hauling raw or 20 kilometers back to the city. By then, blast furnaces produce pig iron, which is brutal garbage for weapons and armor. The real trick is converting it to steel using a stir-frying method, where you work the cooling iron to adjust its carbon content. I know the theory perfectly. The practical execution, zero experience. So my half-elf smiths are running experiments. Lots of experiments, trial, error, more error, occasional small fire. Progress. Science is messy during my 2-week wasteland conquest. My cobalt population exploded from a few thousand to tens of thousands. I did not even recruit every cobalt tribe I found. If I had, the number would have been 30,000 more. With that ridiculous population base, I managed to assemble 2 special cobalt units. First, a Cobalt Mage Core 100 scale sorcerers with dragon bloodline magic. Sounds impressive until you realize most of them can cast maybe 3 spells per day before needing a nap. They are the magical equivalent of a flashlight with dying batteries. Still, a 100 weak mages firing simultaneously is better than 0 mages. Second, I formed 5 squadrons of words, 500 flying kobolds. Their combat effectiveness is questionable at best, but 500 tiny winged creatures darkening the sky at once does create a certain psychological impact. Enemies might not be hurt, but they will definitely be confused and slightly concerned. Sometimes intimidation is worth more than actual damage. I also killed every ogre I encountered during the exploration. Ogres are stupid, violent, impossible to train, and taste terrible. They contribute nothing. Every time I spotted one, I casually swatted it like a bug. No negotiation, no recruitment pitch, simply splat. Some creatures are not worth the management overhead. The real prizes were the hobgoblins. Hobgoblins worship strength and military hierarchy. When a legendary dragon flies overhead, flanked by 2 red dragons, hobgoblins do not run. They kneel. Every hobgoblin tribe in the wasteland pledged allegiance, bringing their disciplined infantry, their bugbear shock troops, their wolf cavalry, and their goblin cannon fodder. These are professional soldiers living under strict military code. Most human noble armies would lose to a single well-organized hobgoblin warband. I now have all of them. A moment later came the Minotaurs. Remember the bullies collecting protection money from Bloodfang's kobolds every month? 500 of them showed up right on schedule, axes in hand, expecting terrified kobolds and easy pickings. Instead, they found me in full dragon form, 200 m of golden gales, wings spanning over 500 m, radiating enough pressure to make grown warriors soil their armor. 500 Minotaurs became my newest employees in approximately 8 seconds. Nobody even argued. A moment later, I made them lead me back to their home tribe in Orc territory, where I recruited the remaining Minotaurs too. The entire tribe packed up and relocated to the edge of the Mosul wasteland. Perfect location, close enough to my territory for work assignments, far enough into the grasslands for their herds to seize. These Minotaurs came with a bonus. Kato beasts. Imagine a giant armored lizard 8 m long, 412 m at the shoulder, weighing 8 tons with a battering ram on its head. Kato beasts are the Minotaur's pack animals, war mounts, and occasionally dinner. Their thick-scale armor gets repurposed into minor body armor after butchering. It is a very efficient ecosystem. Waste nothing, eat everything or what is left. The Minotaurs now work transport duty, hauling or from various mines to Bloodfang's settlement, using Cadron carts. Each delivery is supervised by hobgoblin escorts who claim they are providing security, but are actually monitoring the Minotaurs. Hobgoblins are naturally loyal to dragons. Minotaurs are not. They joined because I scared them, not because they wanted to. So the hobgoblins watch them with the professional suspicion of born military police. It is a beautiful system of checks and balances built entirely on fear and racial tendencies. Standing over Vaughn's settlement in my dragon form, I watched thousands of kobolds scurrying below like industrious ants. Was it my imagination or did they work harder when I was physically present? I think they did. Nothing motivates a cobalt workforce like their dragon god literally watching from above. Employee productivity through divine oversight. The settlement has grown to over 10,000 kobolds. That meant I brought in my architect to design a proper cobalt city. This location will become my industrial capital. All raw materials from every mine in the wasteland get processed here into metal ingots before shipping to Durham, a city built entirely around manufacturing. The world's first cobalt factory town. 10 blast furnaces are already operational, each capable of producing 2 tons of pig iron per batch. To be completely real, that is way more capacity than I currently need, because my smithing workforce is still in training. I have implemented an assembly line production model, where each craftsman learns only one step of the weapon or armor forging process. This dramatically reduces training time compared to teaching each person the entire craft. The catch was that even with simplified training, turning a half-elf farmer into a competent assembly line worker takes 3 months minimum. They need to learn the techniques and build tolerance for the brutal heat and physical demands of metal work. I watched cobalt workers crack open a furnace outlet. Glowing orange iron flowed down channels into prepared molds. Beautiful and dangerous. Once cooled to the right temperature, it moves to crucibles for the carbon adjustment process, stir-frying iron into steel. My half-elf engineers are getting better at it daily. The reject rate is dropping. Soon we will produce weapons-grade steel consistently. From abandoned wasteland to industrial powerhouse in 2 weeks. My territory now has free miners, free soldiers, free transport, free raw materials, and a growing manufacturing base. The total expenditure approximately 0 gold coins. Everything acquired through the ancient and respected dragon negotiation technique of being seriously, really large. My accountant, if I had one, would be weeping tears of joy. My red dragon blood is practically purring with satisfaction. Free stuff truly is the best stuff. The Xobalts are hardworking little guys. I will give them that. Diligent, tireless, never complain. Their only problems are being stupid and weak. I assign some to the steel stirring operation, and they try their absolute best. But consistency is not their strength. Sometimes they produce beautiful steel. Sometimes they overcook it into raw iron. Raw iron is softer and basically useless for weapons. The catch was that, hey, it makes decent farming tools, so nothing goes completely to waste. Every failed batch simply becomes a new shovel. Recycling at its finest. Next to the blast furnace zone, the hobgoblin craftsmen have set up massive stone workshops where they hammer out mining pickaxes for the kobolds. Because yes, kobolds can dig with their claws, but that only works in soft dirt. Asking them to claw through iron, ore, and solid rock is animal cruelty. Even I have limits. The Bloodfong settlement looks nothing like it did 2 weeks ago. It has expanded over 10 times in size, transforming from a primitive camp into something resembling an actual civilization with a terrifyingly large military component. Outside the settlement, 3,000 hobgoblins are drilling in formation on an open training field. 3 full infantry regiments of disciplined 2M tall professional soldiers. If any baron in the Alpha Kingdom saw this, they would faint on the spot. Even viscounts could not defeat this force in open battle. On top of that, hobgoblins never travel alone. They always bring swarms of regular goblins as cannon fodder, plus bugbear shock troops as their armored fist. Any noble facing this combination without fortress walls might as well start writing their will. I assist this army by conquering the massive hobgoblin supertribe deep in the wasteland. Over 1,000 hobgoblins and 100 bugbears in one settlement alone, combined with hobgoblins from smaller tribes scattered across the wasteland. I pulled 3,000 elite warriors for my combat regiments. The rest serve as managers, overseeing goblin settlements throughout the territory, organizing food production and basic logistics. Even the barren wasteland has some wild game and edible plants. On top of that, certain goblin tribes actually farm vegetables and raise small livestock. These management hobgoblins keep everything running, so the warrior hobgoblins eat well and train hard. One important policy I implemented immediately: population control. I banned regular kobolds and goblins from breeding freely. Sounds harsh, but hear me out. Right now, the wasteland has no wars, no predators eating them, and 8 mushroom greater spirit plants, pumping out unlimited food. Without birth restrictions, these creatures would multiply like bacteria in a petri dish. Current cobalt population is a few tens of thousands. Without controls, next year it would be over 100,000. The year after, 250,000. Goblins breed simply as fast. On top of that, what would I do with hundreds of thousands of weak kobolds? Even as cannon fodder, they are too pathetic to be useful. I would rather wait until the dragon aura strengthens their bloodlines, making each individual kobold actually worth something. Quality over quantity. The hobgoblins and bugbears have no breeding restrictions though, because those guys are genuinely useful in combat. Breed away, big fellas. The future orc wars need you. A moment later, a Manor named Kane came running up looking terrified. His Bloodhoof tribe had spotted Bierman scouts during their daily herding patrols. The brown bears were coming to investigate why their monthly iron or tribute had stopped arriving. See, the Bloodhoof Minotaurs were never the real owners of those mines. They were simply collection agents working for a brown bear tribe deeper in the grasslands. Bears are orc royalty, one of the ruling species of the entire orc empire. And my minotaurs had left obvious tracks during their migration, because Kato beasts weigh 8 tons and are about as subtle as a meteor impact. The bears followed the trail. Kane was practically shaking. In the orc hierarchy, bear men are apex predators. Brown bears and black bears are natural-born warriors with terrifying strength. A single bear man could tear through multiple minotaurs without breaking a sweat. Kane was imagining his entire tribe getting massacred as punishment for switching loyalties. I looked at Kane and said one word, bears. A moment later, I checked my dragon heritage knowledge. This world has several types of bearmen. Brown bears and black bears are the most common in the Orc Empire. There are also polar bears in the far north and black and white bears in the eastern mountains. To be completely real, I am way more interested in the black and white ones. Something about them speaks to me on a spiritual level. Unfortunately, those are not found in Orc territory. Tragic. The bear tribe has at least 8 legendary level warriors among their entire race. 8. That is a serious number. Could I fight one bear legend? Easily. Could I fight 8 simultaneously? That would be a very bad afternoon. The catch was that here is the beautiful thing about being a gold dragon. I never fight alone. Metallic dragons, especially gold dragons, are the ultimate team players. We are basically the world's largest and most powerful mutual defense alliance. Hit a baby gold dragon. Congratulations. Here comes an adult gold dragon. Beat the adult? Enjoy meeting an ancient dragon. Somehow manage to defeat the ancient. You have simply unlocked the secret boss. The Platinum Dragon, God Bahamut himself, might send an avatar to personally rearrange your skeleton. This is why metallic dragons rule the multiverse. Not simply because individuals are strong, but because messing with one of us means fighting all of us. We are history's most successful gang. The Crips, the Bloods, the Yakuza, amateurs, compared to the Gold Dragon Neighborhood Watch Association. We even have a divine patron who takes bullying personally. From a certain angle, we are the biggest organized crime family in existence. We simply happen to be on the side of good. Mostly we help the weak, protect the innocent, resolve conflicts through diplomacy first. Very noble, very righteous. The catch was that, if you refuse to listen to reason, and you happen to be evil, we will beat you senseless and then call our friends to beat you again while you are down. Lawful good does not mean lawful pushover. So am I worried about 8 Bearman legends? Not seriously. If they come at me one at a time, I win. If they try to gang up, I make one magical call, and suddenly there are 15 metallic dragons circling overhead asking who needs to be educated about respecting gold dragon territory. The bear tribe might be orc royalty, but even royalty knows not to pick fights with dragons who have unlimited backup. Kane does not know any of this. He is still standing there trembling. Poor bull. He thinks we are about to get invaded by unstoppable bear warriors. What he does not realize is that his new boss is essentially connected to the most overpowered support network in the entire world. Let the bears come. I could use some new sparring partners, and if they bring friends, I will bring bigger friends. That meant I had a funny thought while waiting for the bears to show up. I cast an alignment detection spell on myself. Simply to check, every dragon has an alignment. It is basically your cosmic personality label. Gold dragons are supposed to be lawful good, paragons of virtue, Boy Scouts with wings. My result, chaotic good. I stared at the result for a solid 10 seconds. Chaotic good means I have good intentions, but absolutely zero respect for rules, protocol, or the concept of asking permission before punching someone. Normal gold dragons will lecture you for an hour before reluctantly fighting. I skip straight to the fighting. Brass dragons and copper dragons share this alignment, and those guys are basically the class clowns of the metallic dragon family. Apparently, my red dragon blood shifted my moral compass, simply enough to make me unpredictable. I had honestly expected lawful evil or lawful neutral. I thought I was a pretty orderly guy. Turns out the universe disagrees. But chaotic good works perfectly for my purposes because it makes me absolutely terrifying in ways I had not previously considered. See, here is the strategic brilliance. Normal gold dragons are predictable. Everyone knows they will try diplomacy first. They follow rules. They give warnings. The catch was that a chaotic good gold dragon, nobody knows what I will do. I might negotiate. I might attack first. I might invite you to dinner and then attack during dessert. The uncertainty alone is a weapon. On top of that, here is where it gets beautifully broken. If I start a fight, other metallic dragons will rally behind me because metallic dragons are pathologically loyal to each other. My chaotic tendencies could drag dozens of normally peaceful legendary metallic dragons into a brawl they never planned on joining. On top of that, if enough legendary metallic dragons start fighting, the platinum dragon god Bahamut himself pays attention. Bahamut is the ultimate helicopter parent. His children get bullied. He shows up personally to have a conversation with reality-altering consequences. The chain reaction would be catastrophic for anyone dumb enough to provoke me. I am essentially a match sitting next to a powder keg, sitting next to a nuclear warhead. Light the match and the whole continent gets rearranged. Elsewhere, out on the grasslands, the Beermen were following the Minotaur migration trail. A Bearman commander with 1,000-man rank was leading his squad along the obvious Kato beast tracks when something fell from the sky and bonked him directly on the head. It was one of my scales, a big, golden, unmistakably dragon scale. I may have accidentally shed it while flying overhead, or maybe I dropped it on purpose. Who can say? Chaotic good, remember? My motives are mysterious, even to myself. The commander survived because dragon scales are not actually lethal projectiles. They simply hurt a lot and deliver a message. His soldiers picked up the golden scale and showed it to him. The moment he saw it and felt the legendary tear dragon pressure radiating from it, his face went through 17 different emotions in about 2 seconds. This guy is a tier 6 warrior. He is not stupid. He is bare royalty with actual education. He knows exactly what a golden dragon scale means. He did not investigate further. He did not ask questions. He screamed, "Retreat!" and bolted back to his tribe so fast his soldiers could barely keep up. They had no idea what was happening. Their boss simply touched a shiny gold thing and suddenly transformed into a professional sprinter. Incredible survival instincts. 10 out of 10 situational awareness. Back at the Bear's tribe, the Tier 8 chieftain examined the scale and felt its terrifying pressure. A regular chieftain dealing with a potential legendary gold dragon situation. This was so far above his pay grade that he immediately contacted the Bear Royal Court using an ancestral magic communication device. His message was essentially, there might be a legendary gold dragon sitting in Mosul Wasteland, and I would very much like this to be someone else's problem. The Bear Tribe Patriarch received the report and frowned. A legendary gold dragon in that worthless wasteland full of iron deposits and useless cobalts made no sense. His rational mind said it was probably a trick. Maybe some clever red dragon found a gold dragon scale and planted it to scare the bears away. Red dragons are sneaky like that. A real gold dragon scale would mean hands off forever because nobody with functioning brain cells picks fights with legendary gold dragons. The catch was that a fake scale from a red dragon pretending to be gold. That is simply a bluff you can call. The Patriarch decided to send 2 legendary Beermen to investigate. Not to fight necessarily, simply to confirm whether it was real. That evening, 2 legendary bear warriors arrived at the Mosul wasteland border. I sensed them immediately. 2 legendary Auras approaching from the grasslands. What did I do? Did I prepare for battle? Did I rally my forces? Did I formulate a diplomatic greeting? No. I cast alignment detection on myself again right in front of them, simply casually checking my own alignment while 2 legendary predators watched from a distance. The golden glow of chaotic good shimmered across my enormous body like a neon sign reading, I am unpredictable and backed by gods. The bear men confirmed my scales were real gold dragon scales. Not an illusion, not a disguise, not stolen goods, genuine legendary gold dragon. Their first instinct was already to leave. Killing a legendary gold dragon is not simply difficult. It is suicidal. Even if they won, which they would not, the aftermath would be extinction level. Every metallic dragon on the continent would mobilize for revenge. Behemoth would take personal interest. The bear tribe would cease to exist as a concept. On top of that, then they saw my alignment result. Chaotic good. One of them literally froze. His brain crashed like a computer running too many programs. A gold dragon that does not follow rules. A gold dragon that might attack first and skip the traditional diplomatic warnings. A gold dragon connected to the most powerful mutual defense network in existence, who might drag the entire metallic dragon race into a war because he felt like it on a Tuesday. His partner grabbed him and ran, physically dragged his catatonic colleague away, while screaming the greatest tactical assessment in military history. Run. This guy is not right in the head. They abandoned all claims to the Mosul wasteland instantly. Every mine, every iron deposit, every resource they had been extracting, through their Minotaur proxies for years gone, surrendered without a single blow. They decided the Orc grasslands probably had other mines somewhere. Mines that were not guarded by an unhinged legendary gold dragon with divine backup and an alignment that's basically translates to, I do whatever I want and heaven approves. I watched them flee at maximum speed and felt a warm glow of satisfaction, not from the victory itself, from the efficiency, zero combat, zero casualties, zero effort. Two legendary warriors defeated entirely by vibes and reputation. My chaotic good alignment is the greatest weapon I have ever possessed. I did not even know I had it until today. The universe gave me the perfect personality for maximum intimidation with minimum effort. Thanks, Mom. The red dragon genes seriously came through today. That meant I was minding my own business in Durham, processing the second batch of 8,000 half-elf slaves, when Klaus sent me some message that nearly made me choke on my own spit. She thinks she has become a dragon blood sorcerer. A dragon blood sorcerer. From what exactly? Well, let us think about this carefully. What could have possibly introduced high-concentration dragon magical factors into her body? What mysterious substance might she have consumed repeatedly during our prolonged close contact? I wonder. Truly a medical mystery for the ages. The catch was that before I get to that bombshell, let me catch you up on what was happening at home. The second wave of half-elves arrived, including 1,000 trained warriors I had specifically ordered. These soldiers were exhausted, demoralized, and defeated. Perfect condition for recruitment. I showed up in my full legendary gold dragon form, did the intimidation speech, and they surrendered their will to live independently in about 15 seconds. Getting faster at this. Practice makes perfect. I squeezed out some dragon blood, diluted it, and fed it to the half-elf warriors to convert them into proper dragon servants. By then, dragon blood conversion is not some magical mind control spell. If these warriors had been genuinely powerful, or still burning with rebellious fire, the blood alone would only make them loyal when I am physically present. The moment I leave, they might start having independent thoughts again. Fortunately, these guys were already broken and willing. The dragon blood simply sealed the deal and started upgrading their bodies into half-dragon territory. Stronger, faster, better in every measurable way. Dram now has over 10,000 half-elves. The first batch is still building houses. The second batch grabbed farming tools and started breaking ground around the city. We do not have any oxen yet, but we have minotaurs volunteering for agricultural labor. A 2-1-2 tall bullman pulling a plow is honestly more efficient than any ox. They do not complain either, mostly because they are terrified of me. Fear is the world's greatest performance enhancer. Anyway, back to Clay's crisis. I told Tishna to watch the territory and flew to Vern Fortress at maximum speed. I needed to see this for myself because the implications were absolutely wild. Let me explain what was happening to Klaya. A few days after I left her the first time, she started noticing changes. Her clothes did not fit anymore because she had grown 3 centimeters taller. At 30-something years old, past puberty by at least 15 years. Adults do not simply randomly get taller. A moment later, her skin started looking younger. Not better. Moisturized. Younger. Actually physically younger. Like someone had turned back her biological clock by several years. The rail kicker came when she was sitting by her fireplace doing her usual relaxation routine. She drinks red tea, listens to the wood crackling, stares at the flames. Very zen, very sophisticated. This time she zoned out and stuck her hand directly into the fire, simply casually reached in like she was grabbing a cookie from a jar and felt nothing. No pain, no burning, simply pleasant warmth like holding a cup of cocoa. She yanked her hand out and stumbled backward in shock. Her hand was completely fine, not a single mark. A silver knight who has been fighting her whole life simply shoved her bare hand into open flame and came away feeling cozy. That is not normal human biology. That is dragon biology. Playa put the pieces together. Growing taller, looking younger, immunity to fire, increased vitality. There is exactly one explanation. She has awakened as a dragon blood sorcerer, specifically a gold dragon bloodline sorcerer. The gold dragon part is important because gold dragons are immune to fire. On top of that, where did she acquire gold dragon magical factors from me? Through repeated and enthusiastic, prolonged exposure to my concentrated dragon aura. She absorbed far more of that legendary energy than either of us realized. Dragon blood sorcerers are incredibly rare and powerful. They combine physical combat prowess exceeding same-tier knights with spellcasting abilities, rivaling actual dragons. They grow dragon wings, dragon scales, enhanced senses, elemental immunities. It is one of the most overpowered character classes in this world. And Clea got it accidentally from dating me. I am literally so powerful that sleeping with me is a power-up. She sent me a message asking what was happening to her body, and I dropped everything to investigate. When I arrived at her bedroom window, she was standing in her nightclothes before a mirror examining herself. She turned around, realized I was there, blushed for approximately half a second, then walked toward me like nothing was unusual. This woman's composure is genuinely impressive. Most people would scramble for a robe. Clea simply strutted over and said she was sorry she had not prepared anything for my visit. Ma'am, you are standing there looking like you are in your early 20s again. I think the preparation is sufficient. I activated my dragon's sight to examine her internally. Everything became translucent and blurry like a magical X-ray. Her body looked mostly human still, but I could see changes starting. Most significant one was in her spine. Humans have 33 vertebrae. True dragons have 68. Clea had one vertebrae that was actively transforming into a wing bone. Dragon, blood sorcerers who reach sufficient power all develop actual dragon wings. On top of that, the process starts with their spine restructuring itself. She was in the early stages of a fundamental skeletal transformation. Her blood also contained measurable dragon magical factors. By then, not a lot, but enough to confirm that the awakening was real and progressing. She is genuinely becoming a dragon blood sorcerer. The awakening is still in its infancy. That meant I cannot predict exactly what ability she will develop. But the fire immunity is already active, and the physical enhancements are obvious. This creates an interesting situation. Clea's family has zero history of dragon bloodlines. No ancestor has ever been a dragon blood sorcerer. If she suddenly sprouts wings and starts breathing fire during a council meeting, people will ask questions. Very specific, very embarrassing. Questions about where exactly she acquired dragon genes. On top of that, the answer that the provincial governor has formed an unusually close bond with a legendary gold dragon disguised as a frontier knight would cause approximately 17 political scandals simultaneously. Plyer realized this too, which is why she contacted me, not simply to confirm her condition, but to figure out a cover story. We need a believable explanation for why a 30-year-old woman with mediocre knight talent suddenly became one of the rarest magical beings on the continent. I honestly have no idea what to tell people. Maybe we say she found a mysterious ancient artifact, or ate a weird mushroom, or got blessed by a wandering deity. Anything except the truth, which is that my bodily fluids are apparently performance-enhancing substances of the highest caliber. Being a legendary dragon has perks I never even considered. I am not simply a lord, a warrior, and a political ally. I am apparently also a walking alchemical enhancement laboratory. Every romantic encounter is potentially creating new dragon blood sorcerers. This could become a pattern, and honestly I am not sure whether to be proud or concerned. Mostly proud. I explained to Clea that dragon blood sorcerers have a massive range. Some become legendary warriors, stronger than adult dragons. Others are barely better than average humans. Her fire resistance is real, but not fire immunity. She can stick her hand in a campfire and feel toasty. I can take a bath in active lava and call it a spa day. Big difference. The cobalt scale sorcerers in my wasteland are technically dragon blood sorcerers too, and they can cast maybe 3 spells before needing a 12-hour nap, so the title alone means nothing. It is what you do with it that counts. Clea frowned when she heard this. She is a control freak by nature. Uncertainty makes her physically uncomfortable. She had been hoping I would say something like, "Congratulations, you are destined to become an unstoppable warrior queen." Instead, I said, "Maybe you get wings. Maybe you simply get slightly better skin forever. Nobody knows yet." Not exactly the reassuring diagnosis she wanted. The catch was that then she looked at me, and I could practically see the light bulb appear above her head. Whatever idea she simply had, it involved me staying the night. She invited me to dinner with suspicious enthusiasm. I figured, why not? I needed to visit Count Snow tomorrow anyway to order more half-elf slaves. 50,000 is a solid start, but I am building toward duchy-level territory. I need hundreds of thousands of workers eventually. maybe millions. The land around Durham is all unclaimed wilderness stretching in every direction. I can grab as much as I want. The only bottleneck is population. To be completely real, if I could buy a million half-elves right now, I would do it without blinking. I do not share humanity's weird hang-ups about demographic balance. Humans worry about having too many non-humans in their territory. I am a dragon. Everyone is equally non-dragon to me, and half-elves live longer than humans, which makes them objectively better long-term employees. Why would I choose the worker who dies in 60 years over the one who lasts 200? That evening, Claire threw a proper banquet. She showed up in full, formal attire, looking absolutely stunning, which I expected. What I did not expect was that she brought two friends. Lady Anna and Lady Helen arrived in matching low-cut evening gowns that were clearly selected to maximize visual impact. When they curtsied, the view was geometrically impressive. Deep necklines creating what I can only describe as architectural marvels of fabric engineering. White valleys of considerable depth. When you stare into the abyss stares back. Ancient wisdom has never been more relevant. These two ladies were sneaking glances at me all through introductions, clearly trying to figure out who I was. They knew I had bought massive quantities of half-elf slaves and was developing territory right next to the Orc Empire. Their best guess was that I was a count or dukeset's son from the central continent. By the time Clea walked over and draped herself against me, letting my hand rest on her waist with zero hesitation, they upgraded their estimate to potential prince. Their eyes went wide, and I could see their brains overheating. See, Clea had told them earlier that they would be entertaining an important guest tonight. Standard noble hospitality stuff. What she did not mention was that she would be participating personally. These two women came prepared to be the evening's full program, and suddenly discovered their boss had promoted herself from event organizer to headlining act. That changes the calculus significantly. By then, let me explain who Anna and Helen actually are, because their story is genuinely interesting. Both are widowed baronesses. Their husbands died fighting orcs about 10 years ago. Under inheritance law, their daughters should inherit the family titles and lands. Problem is, their daughters are girls. On top of that, while female nobles are not technically illegal in the Alpha Kingdom, they are rare enough that any ambitious male relative could challenge the succession. Worse, marrying their daughters means inheriting the barony. Every landless nobleman and second son in the province was circling like sharks to protect their daughters and their lands. Anna and Helen pledged themselves to Clea back before she even became Marku was governor. They brought genuine administrative talent and unwavering loyalty. Clea protected their families from predatory marriage schemes, and they managed huge portions of her territory and governmental duties in return. They are not simply friends. They are her inner circle, her most trusted people. On top of that, tonight, Clea was deploying them strategically, because here is the thing she figured out but did not say directly. If my bodily fluids turned her into a dragon blood sorcerer, then theoretically repeated exposure equals stronger bloodline awakening. More exposure means more dragon. Magical factors absorbed. More factors means faster and more powerful evolution. Simple math. The problem is only a 5th-tier silver knight. Her physical endurance has hard limits. She discovered those limits during our previous encounters, and apparently they were not sufficient for the dosage she desired. She needed help. Reinforcements, tag team partners, people she trusted completely, who could share the workload while she recovered between rounds. Hence, Anna and Helen handpicked for loyalty, appearance, and physical constitution. Clea essentially recruited her best friends into a dragon blood sorcerer awakening program disguised as a dinner party. The only flaw in her plan was that Anna and Helen are ordinary humans with zero combat training. A silver knight can at least endure legendary tier intensity for limited periods. Regular noble women have no such resilience. Clea was visibly worried about whether her friends could actually handle what was coming. She looked like a coach who simply sent untrained rookies into a championship game. I looked at the two beautiful, noble women standing there in their carefully chosen gowns, radiating nervous energy and poorly concealed curiosity. On top of that, then I looked at Clea feeding me monster steak with a fork while wiping sauce off my lip with a silk handkerchief. She asked if I liked my gifts. Gifts. She called them gifts. My Gold Dragonblood said this was ethically complicated, and perhaps we should discuss boundaries and mutual consent frameworks. My Red Dragonblood said absolutely nothing, because it was too busy celebrating. My Chaotic Good Alignment said, everyone here is a willing adult making informed choices, and I should stop overthinking and enjoy the excellent dinner. I chose to listen to all three perspectives equally, which in practice meant I stopped thinking and started eating the very good monster steak, while two baronesses and one marquise tried not to stare at me too obviously. The next morning would prove to be quite eventful, but that is a story for later. For now, I will simply note that Klaya's strategic thinking is genuinely world-class. She identified a power source, calculated her own limitations, recruited appropriate support staff, and executed the plan within 24 hours of initial discovery. If she ever gets tired of governing, she could run a military campaign or a very unusual business. When Klaya woke up, it was almost noon, and she immediately noticed the bed was too small. Not because the bed had shrunk overnight, but because it now contained 4 people instead of 1. She made a mental note to order a bigger bed. Priorities, always thinking ahead. That woman, I was lying next to her and on my other side. Anna and Helen were curled up together, sleeping like 2 kittens who had survived a hurricane, which, metaphorically speaking, they had. Pia's real concern was not furniture. Shopping, though. She wanted to know if her dragon bloodline had gotten stronger after last night's intensive absorption session. Becoming a dragon blood sorcerer is not simply about combat power. It extends your lifespan dramatically. As a regular silver knight, she would live maybe 120 years. Dragon blood sorcerers start at 300 years minimum. That is, Tier 8 Sky Knight longevity without needing Tier 8 power. On top of that, legendary dragon blood sorcerers reportedly live for thousands of years. For a woman staring down the barrel of an inevitable orc apocalypse, extra centuries of life sound pretty attractive. Later in her study, Klaya was sitting on my lap with her arms around my neck, half asleep and completely draped over me like expensive curtains. I knew exactly why she had engineered last night. She was not being romantic. She was farming dragon magical factors, like a player grinding experience points in a video game. The catch was that I pretended not to notice because honestly, Klaya has been incredibly useful to me. When I needed mushroom spirit bugs for my cobalt mines, she acquired them at record speed. Some she even traded using the Horven family's own precious spirit bugs and insects. That kind of dedication deserves compensation. That meant I told her to bring me a small spirit that had been evolving for at least 20 years in its host plant before sunset. I would upgrade it to a greater spirit as a reward. Playa was so drowsy she did not process my words immediately. She turned and looked at me with foggy eyes. I gave her a little motivational slap on her backside, and suddenly she was wide awake. Amazing how fast drowsiness vanishes when free greater spirits are on the table. Her eyes lit up like someone had plugged her into an electrical socket. After brief deliberation, she chose a wheat small spirit for the evolution. Safe, predictable, maximum food production. She considered her peanut and cabbage spirits, but decided against gambling on unknowns when there was already a proven wheat template. Smart choice. It was spring planting season, so evolving the wheat spirit now meant the Horven family would have a record-breaking harvest this autumn. More grain means more soldiers she can feed and train. In this slave-based kingdom, the biggest military expense is not weapons or armor. It is food. Feed an army and you have an army. Starve them and you have a riot. She accepted the reward enthusiastically, already calculating how this year's surplus would transform her military capacity. A moment later, she sat on the desk in this Wittesfoff black dress with a thigh-high slit, looking at me, with eyes that were planning 17 things simultaneously. The dress was a central continent design that her family tailor had copied. She never used to wear things like this. Started only after meeting me. I choose to interpret that as a compliment to my taste rather than a calculated seduction strategy, even though it is obviously both. Before receiving the spirit evolution reward, Klaya had been quietly thinking that my behavior was extremely ungolden dragon-like. Gold dragons in legend are noble, restrained, diplomatic. They definitely do not do the things I was doing on her desk. The catch was that, after getting another free greater spirit, she decided she did not care what kind of dragon I was. Results matter more than labels. A pragmatist after my own heart. While she was having her moment of philosophical acceptance, I was holding her foot and she was thinking only one thing. Stay close to this dragon at all costs. The Horven family needs everything I can provide if they want to survive the next orc invasion. Being a border marquis sounds prestigious until you realize it means your family has been a meat shield for 2 centuries and owns nothing but military strength and debt. Southern earls, with a fraction of the title, are wealthier and safer. The Horven name carries honor and responsibility, but very little actual prosperity. Klaya wants to change that equation, and I am her best bet. That afternoon, I headed to the slave market to order more half Elves. Count Snow was not there. He was apparently in the Alpha Kingdom capital doing sales outreach because he still had enormous quotas to fill. The half-elf kingdom has existed for over 1,000 years, and half-elves breed at nearly human rates. Their total population numbers in the tens of millions. My purchase of 54,000 was barely a rounding error. Snow needed to move way more product than that. I left word with the manager that I wanted it another 50,000, bringing my total order to over 100,000 half-elf workers. For a baron or viscount, that number is insane. For someone planning to become a duke, still not enough. The unclaimed wilderness around Durham stretches endlessly in every direction. I could annex thousands of square kiln, and the only limiting factor is having enough hands to develop wit. If I could buy 1,000,000 half-elves right now, I absolutely would. I also do not share humanity's anxiety about racial demographics. Humans worry about having too many non-humans in their territory. That concern makes zero sense to me. I am a dragon. Every species is equally not dragon. Half-elves actually live longer than humans, around 120 years, which makes them superior long-term investments. Why hire the worker who expires in 60 years when you can get one that lasts twice as long for the same price? Basic economics. As for Rodlin's grand ambition to destroy the half-elf kingdom entirely and upgrade themselves to an empire, I honestly think they are overreaching. Rodlin sits in the center of the central continent with tens of millions of square kilm of territory and hundreds of millions of citizens. They absolutely crush the half-elf kingdom in raw power. The catch was that conquering a nation and absorbing it are very different achievements. The other central continent kingdoms will not simply watch Rodlin grow without interference. Geopolitics always gets messy when one country tries to eat another completely. Not my problem, though. I simply want cheap labor, and I want it delivered to my door. Whatever wars and politics happen on the central continent are background noise to me. I am a dragon, playing city booer on the northern frontier. My concerns are spring planting schedules, blast furnace efficiency, cobalt population control, and whether client needs a bigger bed. She definitely needs a bigger bed. I should probably commission one myself, something dragon-sized with reinforced framing for structural reasons. Let me give you a quick geopolitical hot take before I get to the exciting stuff. Rodlin wants to destroy the half-elf kingdom and become an empire. Cute plan. One small problem. The half-elf kingdom exists, specifically because the real elves of the Silver Moon Forest created it as a buffer zone. If Rodlin pushes too far and the half-elf kingdom gets too weak, the full-blooded elves will intervene. On top of that, elves are immortal. They have been accumulating legendary warriors and master mages for thousands of years simply by existing. Their armies are composed entirely of knights and spellcasters, because when you live forever, everyone eventually becomes elite. A war between Rodland and the Elf Kingdom would not end quickly. It would probably drag in every nation on the central and southern continents. Humans backing Rodland, other races backing the elves. It happened 200 years ago with the Orc Empire and nearly reshaped the entire world. I have a gut feeling a continent-spanning war is brewing. The catch was that, hey, that is the main theme of INL. War, war, and more war with brief intermissions of nervous peace. Not my problem right now, though. I have spring planning to worry about. After leaving Vern Fortress, Anna and Helen apparently collapsed with relief the moment I was gone. 2 nights with a legendary dragon left them feeling like their bodies had been through a professional grade blender. The catch was that from what Claw tells me, they were also so quietly hoping for a repeat invitation. Mixed signals, ladies. Very mixed signals. Anna tried asking Clay about my identity and got immediately shut down with a crisp time to work. Message received. My identity is above their clearance level. They accepted it, but I guarantee they are lying awake at night, constructing elaborate theories about which royal family I belong to. Back at Durham, things were progressing beautifully. The half-elves had plowed a significant amount of land while I was away having diplomatic relations with the provincial governor. The Minotaurs were helping with heavy clearing work because those walking bulldozers have strength to spare. The horse ranch up north was completed, and purple alfalfa seeds were already in the ground. With the greater spirit-boosting growth, first harvest comes in 70 days. After that, I raid the center tribes for horses. Everything on schedule. A moment later, I noticed something unexpected about the new settlements my architect had been building around Durham. I had told him to create residential villages for the overflow population. Normal request, build some houses, maybe a well, a communting area. Simple stuff. What I got instead were 400 square compounds, surrounded by 8 high 4 thick walls. Every single one. These were not villages. These were miniature fortresses. My architect had independently decided that every settlement in my territory should be a defensible strong point. I stared at him. He nervously explained that with walls and a small militia, each settlement could resist orc raids independently. During a full-scale invasion, the network of fortified villages becomes a connected fortress system that slows enemy advance and protects of sins. I opened my mouth to question his sanity and then closed it because he was absolutely right. This is the northern frontier. Unfortified villages are simply free food for raiding parties. Every settlement should be a tiny castle. So, apparently my territory has no normal villages, only an interconnected web of miniature fortresses. My domain looks less like farmland and more like a military installation that happens to grow wheat. Once Tishna and the dragon elves have time, I will have them cast hardening spells on all the walls for extra durability. Fortress farming, a new agricultural philosophy. I swung by the Mosul wasteland to check operations there. Everything running smoothly. Cobalts mining, hobgoblins training, minotaurs hauling, blast furnaces burning. The industrial machine is humming along. Satisfied, I settled down in an open area near the Bloodfong settlement since my dragon-sized castle is still simply a blueprint. For now, the most powerful being in the region sleeps on bare ground like a golden mountain. The kobolds could see me from across the settlement and went absolutely berserk with productivity. Nothing motivates quite like your god taking a nap within visual range. The hobgoblins, professionals that they are, simply kept drilling without distraction, disciplined to the core. A moment later, something truly unexpected happened. I pulled out a golden seed from my personal dimensional pocket. This seed has been with me since I hatched it. Was the only thing inside my tiny half-plane storage space. A micro-dimension about 1 acre in size that can only hold supernatural plants and nature spirits. No gold, no treasures, no living creatures except plant-born beings. Useful for gardening, useless for banking. This golden seed is the original resident of that space. My white whale, my unsolvable puzzle. Over the past 50 years, I have tried everything to make it sprout. I have poured over 1,000 drops of moonlight juice into it. 1,000 drops. Each drop can grow a regular tree to ancient status or evolve a spirit bug into a greater spirit. I dumped enough magical fertilizer into this seed to create a forest, and it simply sat there absorbing everything like a golden black hole.
Never sprouting.
Never dying. Simply eating my juice and doing nothing. The catch was that I kept trying because the seed kept absorbing. If it were truly dead or inert, it would reject the liquid. The fact that it drank everything meant something was happening inside. Something incredibly slow. So every few weeks, I would drop a few more drops on it, check for changes, shrug, and move on. Legendary dragons live for millennia. Patience is not a virtue for us. It is a lifestyle. Today, though, something felt different. The seed looked brighter, more alive. It was radiating life energy in a way I had never sensed before. Faint but unmistakable, like a heartbeat starting up after years of silence. I dug a small hole with my claw. A motion so practiced it was pure muscle memory. Dropped the seed in and added 10 drops of moonlight juice. I have performed this exact ritual dozens of times over 50 years. Plant the seed, add juice. Wait, nothing happens. Dig it back up. Try again next month. This time, the seed sprouted after 50 years. After over 1,000 drops of accumulated moonlight essence after countless failed attempts, a tiny golden shoot pushed through the soil and reached toward the sky. I stared at it. The sprout stared back. Neither of us knew what to do next. What kind of tree grows from a golden seed that required 50 years and 1,000 drops of legendary dragon moonlight juice to germinate? I have absolutely no idea. My dragon heritage knowledge has nothing on this. No records, no legends, no references. This is completely unknown territory. Whatever this thing grows into, it is either going to be the most magnificent tree in the history of the world or the most expensive houseplant ever cultivated. Either way, I am committed now. 50 years of investment. This seed owes me answers. Grow, you beautiful golden mystery. Show me what you are. 10 drops of moonlight juice, and the golden seed finally sprouted. After 50 years, one tiny green shoot, poking out of the dirt like it was checking whether the world was worth bothering with. I was thrilled for approximately 30 seconds before the math hit me. Like a falling boulder, 10 drops produced 5 centimeters of growth. I generate about 300 drops per year. A significant chunk goes to feeding myself, growing blood orchids for my nights, and maintaining all my spirit plants. Whatever remains goes to this seed. At this absorption rate, I genuinely started wondering whether my legendary dragon lifespan would be long enough to see this thing become an actual tree. That is a terrifying thought for someone who can live thousands of years. What kind of plant requires geological timescales to grow? While I was spiraling into existential gardening anxiety, the little sprout did something strange. The barren wasteland dirt around it suddenly erupted with green grass, fresh, healthy grass spreading outward in a circle from the sprout like a shockwave of fertility. The Mosul wasteland is famously dead soil. Nothing grows here naturally. Yet this 5-centimeter baby plant was casually terraforming its surroundings simply by existing. I stood up and looked down at my feet. I was standing in a tiny meadow that had not existed 60 seconds ago. The sprout swayed happily in the sunlight like a toddler waving at its parent. I looked at the sprout. The sprout looked at me. We shared a moment. A moment later, a green glow appeared on the sprout, and everything went black. I woke up approximately 1 month later. 1 entire month of unconscious napping on the ground in dragon form, while my territory continued developing without me, simply passed out cold, next to a baby plant. If anyone had attacked during that period, they would have found a 200 legendary golden dragon, sleeping like a house cat beside a tiny glowing seedling. The visual alone would have been worth the trip. When consciousness returned, the first thing I noticed was that something fundamental had changed inside. My body, my cultivation level was the same. Still low legendary tier, nowhere near middle legendary. But my body contained something new, something impossible. 3 points of natural divinity. I froze. Every scale on my body locked rigid. My dragon brain needed several seconds to process what my senses were telling me because what they were telling me made absolutely no sense. Divinity is the essence of gods. Divine beings like the phoenix and the feathered serpent possess divinity. On top of that, those creatures are so far above normal biology that comparing them to dragons is like comparing dragons to earthworms. The phoenix has literal resurrection powers. Fathered serpents reach legendary here the moment they become adults. No training required. These are beings whose fundamental life essence transcends mortality itself. On top of that, somehow 3 points of natural divinity had seamlessly merged into my body while I was taking an involuntary nap next to a mysterious plant. I had become a divine being, a dragon infused with godly essence. This should be categorically impossible. In the entire multiverse, dragons cannot absorb divinity directly. It does not matter how powerful you are. Legendary dragons are still classified as mortals. Everything below true godhood is mortal. There is no upgrade path from dragon to divine being through normal means. Yet here I was impossibly, undeniably divine. The benefits were immediately apparent. Every single resistance I possessed had jumped dramatically. Magic resistance, physical resistance, negative energy resistance, mental attack resistance, all massively enhanced. This tracks with what I know about divine beings. They all have ridiculous defensive capabilities. Trying to curse a divine being is like trying to punch the ocean. Technically, you can do it. Practically, you accomplish nothing, because the divinity was specifically natural divinity. My druid magic received an enormous amplification. Every nature spell I cast would now be dramatically more powerful. My summon natural ally spell, which previously could call decent elemental helpers, now had the potential to summon legendary tier elemental lords. The big ones, the ones that can flatten cities. If I know a specific elemental lord personally, I can even summon them directly by name. Like calling a friend except the friend is a sentient hurricane the size of a mountain. Alternatively, instead of summoning one legendary elemental, I could use the same spell to conjure an entire army of lesser elementals. Need a 100 water elementals for a siege? Done. Need 200 earth elementals to build fortifications? Coming right up. My construction and military capabilities simply multiplied by an absurd factor. Nature itself also became more affectionate toward me. Plants grow better in my presence. Animals feel calmer. My life regeneration speed increased substantially, and my already enormous lifespan extended even further. Certain categories of hostile magic now simply bounce off me. Location tracking spells cannot find me. Curses dissolve on contact. Any divination or mental intrusion attempt triggers an automatic alert system. I have become deeply annoying to fight against. The catch was that the biggest question remained unanswered. Where did the divinity come from? That golden seed has been in my dimensional pocket since I hatched. I fed it over 1,000 drops of moonlight juice across 50 years. It finally sprouted, made some grass grow, flashed green, and knocked me unconscious for a month. During that month, 3 points of natural divinity somehow integrated perfectly into my body, without rejection or complication. Did the seed give me the divinity? Did it unlock something already dormant inside me? Was the 1,000 drops of moonlight juice over 50 years Actually a ritual I was performing without knowing it? I had no answers. My dragon heritage knowledge contained zero references to golden seeds that grant divinity. This was completely off the map. Elsewhere, Dram had continued thriving during my nap. All 50,000 First-Order half-elves had arrived. The Second Order was partially delivered too. Count Snow had not even asked for a deposit on the new batch, because apparently my credit rating as a legendary gold dragon is flawless. 20-some fortified villages surrounded the main city, connected by massive stone roads that looked more appropriate for a wealthy southern trade hub than a frontier settlement. Half-elf craftsmen were nearly finished training on the assembly line weapon forging system. The territory was developing so fast that my month-long absence barely mattered. The half-elves behaved themselves because Tishna had taken each new batch on a field trip to see my sleeping dragon body and my armies of hobgoblins and kobolds. Nothing says welcome to your new home, quite like showing immigrants a mountain-sized dragon surrounded by thousands of monster soldiers. I looked at the tiny golden sprout still growing beside me, still small, still mysterious, still absolutely refusing to explain itself. The catch was that now I knew one thing for certain. Whatever this plant becomes, it is worth every single drop I invested. 3 points of divinity for 1,000 drops of moonlight juice is the greatest return on investment in the history of the multiverse. My red dragon blood is finally satisfied with a purchase, even if it was technically free. That meant let me explain what 3 points of natural divinity actually means in practical terms, because my brain is still processing this upgrade. Before the divinity, I was a low-tier legendary dragon. Strong, sure, but advancing further would take centuries of grinding. Gold dragons hit a brutal wall after legendary tier. The path upward is steep, slow, and most dragons plateau for millennia. By then, if I simply found a nice cave and slept for a few hundred years, I would wake up at Holy Domain tier or higher. The divinity essentially removed the ceiling on my growth. My actual combat power has already doubled even without any rank increase, purely from resistance boosts and nature magic amplification. Those 2 Bearman legends who ran away last month, if they showed up today, I could crush them both simultaneously without breaking a sweat. A month ago, that would have been a serious fight. Today, it would be a warm-up exercise. The little golden sprout is still only 5 centimeters tall, 1 month of growth, and 0 visible progress. The catch was that when I looked at her, and yes, I am calling the sprout her now, because she radiates personality, I could feel genuine joy and affection coming from this tiny plant. She was swaying in the breeze like she was waving hello. Looking at her felt like looking at the embodiment of all nature compressed into 5 centimeters of green. Absolutely mind-bending. I spent 3 extra days simply lying next to her on the little meadow she had created, getting used to my new powers. During those 3 days, I tested my upgraded Summon Natural Ally spell and pulled a legendary tier Wind Elemental Lord out of the elemental plane. This colossal sentient tornado took one look at me since my natural divinity and basically said, "Yeah, I'll work for you." We signed a contract on the spot. Future summons will be direct dial, minimal payment required. I now have a legendary air force on speed dial. 1 phone call and a living hurricane shows up to rearrange the battlefield. My military options have become absurd. When I finally left the meadow, the little sprouts swayed goodbye. No clinging, no green flash knockout this time. Simply a gentle wave in the wind. I am developing emotional attachment to a 5-centimeter plant, and I am completely fine with it. She gave me divinity. She can have all the moonlight juice she wants for the rest of eternity. Back in Durham, Tishna tackled me the moment I walked through the gates. She had been visiting my sleeping body every single night during my month-long nap, staying until dawn before reluctantly returning to run the territory. Isla and Emily did the same. 3 dragon elf girls taking turns keeping vigil over their unconscious dragon. Kind of adorable, honestly. Tishna kissed me so enthusiastically she made herself dizzy. Then, head resting on my shoulder with unfocused eyes, she murmured that I felt different. Her nature spirit senses were picking up my natural divinity, making her instinctively want to be closer to me, as if she needed an excuse. This girl was already permanently attached to me, like a koala with separation anxiety. She took me to her office. Yes, my tiny dragon elf, Loli, has an office because she is the chief administrator of DRAM. By then, do not let the twin pigtails and the height fool you. This girl runs an entire territory with the efficiency of a corporate executive. She sat on my lap and briefed me on everything that happened while I was Kamamayos. All 50,000 First Order half-elves arrived and were settled. The Second Order was already coming in batches. Count Snow visited personally to collect payment, and apparently spent his entire visit looking like someone who had accidentally walked into the wrong dimension. The stone roads, the towering city walls, the fortress villages, the cleanliness. Dram has no animal or human waste on its streets. Snow almost thought he had stumbled into an elven city. In the entire world, only elves maintain that level of urban hygiene, and only because they genuinely love cleanliness. Dwarves technically achieve it too, but only because their cities are built inside mountains. On top of that, if they did not manage waste properly, their enclosed caverns would marinate in filth until the smell achieved sentience. The biggest news from Tishna was the White Raven Knight Order. While I was sleeping, she had organized 4,000 half-elf warriors into a proper military unit and started training them in White Raven swordsmanship. White Raven is legendary across the entire multiverse, one of the three supreme sword disciplines, alongside Steel Soul and Iron Heart. The catch was that, unlike those two, White Raven is not about individual dueling power. It is a command-style combat system, formation fighting, coordinated strikes, flanking maneuvers, position swapping, mutual cover, aura buffs that stack across the entire unit. A single White Raven swordsman is decent. 100 of them fighting in formation are devastating. 1,000 are a force that makes professional armies reconsider their career choices. The half-elf warriors already had basic White Raven training from their homeland. Tishna built on that foundation with proper instruction and my golden vein blood orchids. The earliest recruits have already broken through to official knight rank. The newest members are at minimum apprentice knights. 4,000 coordinated warriors using formation-based combat techniques, feds on supernatural resources getting stronger every day. This is becoming a real military force. DRAM's regular army now consists of 500 half-dragon elite guards and 4,000 White Raven knights. Each fortified village also has militia patrols handling security and protecting the spirit plants scattered across the territory. Spring planting is complete. Wheat and barley greater spirit plants are deployed across all farming zones. The harvest this autumn will be enormous. On top of that, then Tishna mentioned something that made my ears perk up. During my absence, CLA had been sending messages. Among them was intelligence about cloud giants. The Howlraven family's network had finally located cloud giant activity in the Night Kingdom on the central continent. After weeks of searching through every contact, every informant, every allied house, they found a trail. Cloud giants are not easy to track. They live on mountaintops and floating sky islands, isolated in small family groups. Finding them requires extensive intelligence networks and significant determination. Playa had deployed her family's full resources because the payment I offered more spirit evolutions was worth turning every stone on the continent. I made a mental note to visit class soon, partly to discuss the cloud giant intel, partly to evolve another spirit for her as promised, partly because she probably ordered that bigger bed by now. Strategic planning requires comfortable accommodations. My territory went from empty wasteland to functioning civilization in roughly 2 months. I have a walled city, 20-plus fortress villages, an industrial mining complex run by kobolds and hobgoblins, a professional knight order, divine powers I did not have 8 weeks ago, and a mysterious golden plant that may or may not be some kind of nature deity seedling. Not bad for a dragon who came here to relax and play Lord. Not bad at all. CLA's intelligence network found cloud giants in the last place expected, Britannia, the Night Kingdom. Let me tell you about Britannia, because these people are absolutely terrifying in the most respectable way possible. Britannia sits on the western side of the central continent directly south of the Alpha Kingdom. It is basically one enormous flat plain, and that geography created the most devastating cavalry civilization in the world. Their crown jewel is the Grail Knight Order. Only about 100 members, every single one a legendary knight. Let that sink in. 100 legends in one unit. Most kingdoms are lucky to have a dozen legendary warriors total. Britannia has 100 of them riding horses and holding lances. 200 years ago, when the Orc Empire almost destroyed the Alpha Kingdom, the Grail Knights showed up first. The Orcs thought their elite species, behemoths, bear men, rhino men, elephant men, could handle human cavalry. They were catastrophically wrong. The Grail Knights tore through Orc elite formations like a storm through a collapsing barricade. Tens of thousands of the Empire's warriors went down in waves. Full behemoth legions, bearman brigades, lionman battalions annihilated in single charges. The leading knights were all silver tier or higher. and each one could literally skewer a behemoth heavy infantryman on their lance like a kebab. After the Grail Knights finished with the orc legends in personal combat, these so-called living saints then decisively routed every remaining orc force. The farmland around the Alpha Kingdom capital enjoyed incredible harvests for years afterward. Fertilizer, you see. Natural organic auger-derived fertilizer. The current behemoth beast emperor's head got carried home as a trophy. The orcs were pushed from the capital gates all the way back to the grasslands in one continuous route. Genuinely traumatic experience for an entire species. The source of Grail Knight power is fascinating. They worship the Lady of the Lake, a goddess whose earthly divine realm exists within Britannia itself. To become a Grail Knight, a Tier 8 Sky Knight must abandon everything they own and embark on a holy quest. The lady gives each aspirant a divine mission that takes months or years to complete. These quests are brutally difficult. Sometimes they have to solo raid an evil dragon's lair or fight demons from the abyss. Most knights fail and come home broken. The few who succeed return to the lady's sacred domain, meet her avatar, and drink from the Holy Grail. Grail water grants incredible resistances, enhanced constitution, extended lifespan, and enough holy buffs to make any spellcaster cry. A Grail Knight is literally a mage's worst nightmare. Nobody actually knows how many Grail Knights exist total. The 100 figure comes from the fact that 80 showed up 200 years ago. The real number could be much higher. The lady has been making Grail Knights for a very long time. I know all this because I once met a female knight on her Grail quest during my travels. Nice lady, very chatty about her faith, very stabby about everything else. That meant when Clea told me cloud giants were spotted near a mountain range in Britannia, my first reaction was confusion. Britannia is a plain. Cloud giants live on mountains. Were there mountains in Pancake Country? I checked the map. Turns out there is a small mountain range, the Rose Mountains, tucked near the Lady of the Lake's earthly divine realm. Not inside the Forbidden Zone, but close enough that powerful knights regularly patrol the area. This is mildly concerning, but not a deal-breaker. Britannia is actually very dragon-friendly. There is a city called Gabriel Right inside the kingdom, ruled by an actual legendary gold dragon, with dozens of adult metallic dragons permanently residing there. Young gold and silver dragons visit regularly like it is a vacation resort. Britannia does not care as long as you do not insult their goddess. Simple rules. After some deliberation, I flew south. Could not pass up a cloud giant lead, simply because the neighborhood was intense. Tishna stayed behind to manage Durham. She pouted but understood. Flying over the Rose Mountains, it took approximately 5 minutes to spot a cloud giant fortress. These people build on mountaintops, and their architecture is massive. Subtlety is not a giant virtue. The fortress was enormous, clearly visible from kilometers away, with griffins circling the peaks. Cloud giants tame griffins and direwolves as hunting companions, the same way humans keep dogs and hawks. Except their dogs weigh a ton, and their hawks can carry a horse. I announce my arrival with a proper dragon roar. Courtesy matters between powerful beings. You do not simply land on someone's roof unannounced when they are 10 m tall and can throw boulders the size of carriages. Down below, a cloud giant named Cassius was simply heading out for a routine hunting trip. Married guy for kids, probably thinking about dinner. A moment later, a sound like the sky cracking open rolled across the mountains, and a 200-meter golden dragon materialized above his home. I imagine his hunting plans changed rather abruptly. The thing about approaching cloud giants as a gold dragon is that the initial contact is almost always smooth. Cloud giants respect strength and civilization. Gold dragons embody both. We have a long multiverse, spanning tradition of partnership. They guard our castles. We protect their families. On paper, it is an equal contract. In practice, when one partner is a legendary dragon, the word equal does some heavy lifting. My goal is to recruit several hundred cloud giants for DRAM. Even a few dozen would transform my defenses. A single cloud giant matches a silver knight in raw power. Put 30 of them on fortress walls, and attacking armies will reconsider every life decision that brought them to that battlefield. On top of that, if they bring their griffins, aerial cavalry, the strategic implications make my military planning brain tingle with joy. The catch was that, first, I need to make a good impression on Cases and his family. A moment later, convince them to spread the word to other cloud giant clans. Recruitment is a process, not an event, especially when your recruits are 10 tall mountain dwellers who value independence. Time to put on the charm. Gold Dragon Diplomacy. Mode activated. I found my first cloud giant, a guy named Cassius, who was heading out to hunt breakfast for his 4 growing kids. Cloud giant children need enormous amounts of food during their growth phase. Otherwise, they end up as 5-meter dwarfs by giant standards. Imagine being a 10-meter tall dad whose biggest fear is his kids turning out short. Relatable parenting anxiety simply scaled up by a factor of 10. Cassius was loading up his tamed griffins and direwolves when I announced my arrival with a thunderclap roar from above. The direwolves immediately tucked their tails and retreated so hard they practically tried to climb into their own butts. The griffins started whimpering. Cassius himself froze mid-step and stammered, "Gee jig gold dragon." Like a broken record. He knows what gold dragons look like from stories. Noble, elegant, majestic creatures. What he was not prepared for was a gold dragon, the size of a small mountain, blotting out the sun above his house. Noble and elegant, sure, but mostly simply overwhelmingly enormous. His brain was running the fight or flight calculation, and both options came back marked. Absolutely not. I examined his setup with genuine interest. The griffins and dire wolves were excellent. In human kingdoms, there is a growing trend of forming beast as knight orders using organized magical creature mounts. The Alpha Kingdom cannot afford this because they are broke, but I certainly can. Each cloud giant family keeps 4 or 5 griffins and 6 or 7 direwolves. Collect enough families, and I have the breeding stock for an entire beast cavalry force. Give it 10 years of breeding and training, and I will have griffin riders and wolf cavalry in proper formations. The Beast Mountain Range west of the Mosul Wasteland provides unlimited hunting grounds for feeding them. Long-term planning with long-term payoff. Dragon patience at work. I shifted to human form and landed in his courtyard. "Will you serve me?" Cassius dropped to one knee without a millisecond of hesitation. "It would be my honor, my lord." Technically, Gold Dragon and Cloud Giant contracts are supposed to be equal partnerships. The catch was that when one partner is a legendary dragon whose shadow covers your entire fortress, the word equal politely excuses itself from the conversation. Cassius chose survival and dignity in that order. Smart man, big man, smart big man. Are there other cloud giants nearby? His eyes lit up. Not only were there 8 more families scattered through the rows, mountains, but deep inside the range lived an entire cloud giant tribe. Cassius instantly volunteered as tour guide, told his wife and kids to stay home and off. We went on history's most productive recruitment drive. One afternoon, that is all it took. 8 families, 0 rejections. Every single cloud giant took one look at me and knelt. By evening, I had 18 adult cloud giants and 30 children under my command. The youngest kid was 8 years old, 40-plus years from adulthood. I was basically running a daycare for creatures that would eventually grow taller than buildings. The family started packing immediately, ready to relocate to the Alpha Kingdom once I finished with the main tribe. The next morning, I headed deeper into the mountains with cases. The cloud giant tribal settlement was significantly more impressive than the scattered family fortresses. Dozens of massive stone structures built across a mountain summit, housing over 40 adult cloud giants and scores of children. On top of that, then, came the surprise. This tribe had a legendary cloud giant mage as their elder, a proper legender spellcaster in silk robes carrying a staff the size of a tree trunk. This changed the dynamic considerably. When I was recruiting individual families, it was a simple power differential. Legendary dragon versus non-legendary giants. Easy math. The catch was that a legendary cloud giant mage, with 3 Tier 8 warriors and 4 Tier 8 mages backing him up. That is a tribe with genuine combat power. They could theoretically refuse me and fight if things went sour. The elder greeted me with a polite bow and a trembling hand. He was trying very hard to hide. He was a legend himself, so he had the sensory capability to feel that something about me was fundamentally different from a normal legendary gold dragon. He could not identify my natural divinity specifically. The catch was that his legendary instincts were screaming that I was more dangerous than I should be. Like looking at a house cat and somehow knowing it was actually a tiger wearing a disguise. "Will you serve me?" I asked directly. No diplomatic preamble, no hours of negotiation. Simply the question. The elder hesitated. I could see the internal war playing out behind his ancient eyes. His pride as a legendary warrior said refu. His survival instinct said accept. His rational mind was calculating whether his tribe, 1 legend, 3 Tier 8 warriors for Tier 8 mages, could actually resist me if this went badly. A normal legendary gold dragon, he would have said no confidently. He is a legend too. He has 7 Tier 8 subordinates. That is enough firepower to make any standard legendary dragon think twice about forcing the issue. Cloud giants are not pushovers. They are one of the most powerful giant subspecies in existence. The catch was that I am not a normal legendary gold dragon. I am a chaotic good divine being with doubled combat power, legendary elemental lords on speed, dial, and the entire metallic dragon race as my emergency contacts. The elder could feel all of this on some instinctive level, even if he could not articulate exactly what was wrong. He knew that refusing me was not the same as refusing an ordinary legend. It was more like refusing a natural disaster that happened. To be polite enough to ask permission first. The whole tribe was watching him, 40-plus adult cloud giants, their spouses, their children, all waiting for their elder to make the biggest decision of his very long life. Some of the quicker ones had already figured out why Cases was standing next to me, looking perfectly comfortable. They were not opposed to joining. Cloud giants partnering with gold dragons is ancient tradition. They simply needed their leader to say yes first. I waited patiently. I am a dragon. Patience is what I do between meals. The elder could take all the time he needed, because we both knew how this was going to end. The only question was whether he would arrive at the inevitable conclusion gracefully, or if we would need to have a more physical conversation first. I was seriously hoping for graceful. Fighting a legendary mage inside his own fortress while surrounded by Tier 8 giants sounded exhausting. Not dangerous, simply exhausting. On top of that, I had a long flight home ahead of me. The cloud giant elder was standing there having the world's most visible internal crisis. His confidence built over. Centuries of being a legendary mage with 7 Tier 8 subordinates had been shattered in the 30 seconds since I arrived. He wanted to say no. His pride was screaming at him to refuse. He is a legend too. After all, he has warriors. He has mages. He is not some kobold who kneels at the first roar. That meant I gave him a little nudge. I casually activated my Summon Natural Ally spell, and the unmistakable aura of a legendary elemental lord began materializing beside me. Did not even fully summon it, simply let the pressure leak out like cracking open a door to show what was behind it. Hey, see, this? I can casually pull legendary beings out of thin air. Still want to negotiate? The elder spine made a decision. His brain was still debating. He bowed. It is my honor, esteemed lord. Every cloud giant in the tribe instantly dropped to one knee behind him. Decision made. Democracy by intimidation. My favorite kind. Final. Recruitment count. Nearly 60 adult cloud giants, including 1 legendary mage, 3 Tier 8 warriors for Tier 8 mages, and dozens of children, plus all their griffins and dire wolves. This was supposed to be a difficult multi-year recruitment campaign. I finished it in 2 days. The cloud giant mages can also craft magical equipment, which means I now have an enchanting department. The only challenge is that human-sized gear is hilariously tiny for them. Imagine asking a giant to engrave runes on a bracelet the size of his pinky nail, but they will manage. Simply as the giants were packing their bags for a 1,000-mile relocation, I sensed something. My head snapped upward. A holy sound filled my ears. Angelic music, ethereal harmonies, the kind of audio that makes you feel simultaneously peaceful and deeply suspicious. A moment later, a voice soft, warm, feminine, coming from the direction of the Lady of the Lakes' earthly divine realm. She was calling me. By then, let me tell you about my initial reaction to hearing about the Lady of the Lake. When I first arrived in this world, I nearly had a panic attack. Lady of the Lake, Knights, Holy Grail, Britannia. I was desperately scanning my surroundings for signs of some apocalyptic, for gods choose one scenario or an end times prophecy. Thankfully, it turned out to be a complete coincidence with no connection to any story I knew. Simply a goddess who happened to have a very familiar naming convention. Crisis. Averted, heart rate normalized. According to dragon heritage knowledge, the Lady of the Lake is not actually human. She is an ancient nature spirit from a primordial era. Back when gods were not made through faith and worship but simply emerged from nature itself. These primitive gods, totem gods some scholars call them, were worshipped by all living things before organized religion existed. Most of them vanished or died when the new divine system replaced the old one. The lady survived by adapting. She learned the new rules, rebuilt her divinity through the modern faith system, and established an earthly divine realm. Because her nature spirit origins allowed her to maintain a physical presence in the mortal world. Impressive resume, billions of years old, survived a complete cosmic restructuring. Currently running the world's most elite night factory. Respect. She was calling me because she sensed the natural divinity and the strange nature aura I carried from the golden sprout. As a primordial nature spirit, she would be uniquely sensitive to that kind of energy. It probably felt to her like hearing a familiar song from childhood after millions of years of silence. Should I go? No. life-threatening danger. The lady is lawful good. Her knights murder non-humans on battlefields with cheerful enthusiasm. But the goddess herself is genuinely benevolent. Worst-case scenario, she asks me something I cannot answer. Best case, I get something valuable out of it. On top of that, if things have somehow go sideways, I can always call Platinum Dragon God Bahamut, a gold dragon with divine essence. Bahamut would teleport across the multiverse to protect me. Having a helicopter deity parent has never been more useful. I decided to go. Flew over in minutes. No obstacles the entire way. The lady had clearly told her Grail Knights to let me pass. Not a single holy lance pointed in my direction. Very hospitable. I landed at Fairy Lake in human form. Dragons are proud, but we show respect to being stronger than us. Even red dragons behave politely in front of gods. It is not weakness, it is intelligent self-preservation. The lake was beautiful. Crystal water, golden light, a perfect statue of the lady holding her famous grail. According to legend, when a knight completes his quest, the lady appears here in person to offer him the grail. Water. Nobody outside the order has ever witnessed the ceremony. Not even gold dragons get invitations. As I watched, the statue began to glow. Golden light filled the clearing, and then she materialized. The lady of the lake herself. White dress, bare feet floating above the ground, holding the golden grail that has created 100 legendary warriors. Her eyes were the blue of a summer sky. On top of that, she was smiling at me with the warm curiosity of someone who simply found something she has been looking for without knowing she was searching. "Hello, golden dragon blessed by nature," she said softly. I gave a respectful bow, not a deep one. I am not her follower, simply use enough to acknowledge that she is a deity, and I am technically still mortal, upgraded, mortal with divine essence, but mortal nonetheless. She did not seem bothered by my limited difference, probably refreshing after centuries of nights, throwing themselves face first onto the ground whenever she appears. She floated closer and examined me with those ancient eyes. What I did not realize was that she did not care about my 3 points of natural divinity. What fascinated her was the faint nature aura clinging to me from the golden sprout. When I looked at that tiny plant, I felt like I was staring at all of nature condensed into 5 centimeters. The Lady of the Lake, as a primordial nature spirit born from nature itself, was feeling that same sensation radiating from me, and her perception was infinitely deeper than mine. To her, I was walking around carrying a whisper of something ancient and fundamental, something she recognized from before. Recorded history. She tried using divine power to trace where the aura came from. My past and future were both shrouded in impenetrable fog. Even a goddess could not read my timeline. That probably made her even more curious. Gods do not encounter mysteries very often. When they do, they get clingy. A moment later, she dropped a bombshell with the casual delivery of someone offering you a cup of tea. "Hardy, stay in Britannia. I can make you the next Night King. Power, status, wealth, everything you want. Britannia has it. Night King of Britannia, the most powerful military kingdom on the central continent. She was offering me the throne of an entire nation of legendary warriors, as casually as someone offering a mint. I stood there at the edge of the holiest lake in the world, being personally headhunted by an ancient goddess, and my brain was doing backflips, trying to process the job offer. Night King Hardy, ruler of the Grail Knights, commander of a 100 legends. My gold dragon blood said, "This is a tremendous honor worthy of careful consideration." My red dragon blood said, "We already have a territory with kobolds and cat G girls. Why would we leave?" My chaotic good alignment said, "This sounds like it comes with responsibilities and rules." Hard pass. I had a feeling my answer was going to disappoint a goddess today. The Lady of the Lake doubled down. "Stay in Britannia. I will make you king. I will even marry you. A grand wedding in front of all my followers." I stared at her. A goddess simply proposed to me. An actual deity worshipped by the most powerful military nation on the continent looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Be my husband and rule my kingdom." This is not a normal Tuesday. This is not a normal anything. Let me be honest. I was tempted. Britannia is filthy rich, absurdly powerful, and widely considered humanity's #1 kingdom. The Grail Knight Order alone is a weapon of mass destruction. Survivors from the Orc Wars describe their charges in terms that sound made up. One sword swing from a single Grail Knight. Several hundred elite Orc warriors deleted. Not weak goblins, spearmen, rhino men, premium grade fighters gone in one slash. On top of that, each knight swings multiple times per second. When the full order charges together, their sword light literally covers the entire battlefield. The Behemoth Legion, supposedly the continent's greatest army, got steamrolled into ground meat in moments. After winning, these living saints cheerfully slaughtered every remaining orc in sight. The farmland around the Alpha Kingdom capital had record harvests for years. Organic fertilizer, very organic. In recent decades, Britannia has been quiet, not because they mellowed out, because every neighboring non-human nation has already been exterminated or driven into mountains to live as primitive tribes. The knights ran out of things to kill nearby. Their martial enthusiasm is not diminished. They are simply between projects. On top of that, the lady herself. Gorgeous porcelain skin. Perfect figure. Her white dress tracing, every curve like it, was designed by someone who understood geometry on a spiritual level. Bare feet hovering simply above the grass. Delicate ankles. Flawless toe. Which reminded me of something hilarious. Enemy races mockingly call the Grail water. The goddess's foot washing. Water, because she always appears barefoot. Every Grail Knight's legendary power technically comes from divine foot bath. The Knights would murder anyone who said this to their face, which is why the joke only circulates among orcs, quietly in whispers behind locked doors. Despite all this, the kingdom, the army, the literal goddess wife, I declined. Politely, respectfully. I am sorry, honored lady. I already have territory elsewhere. My red dragon blood was screaming. My gold dragon blood was screaming. Even my chaotic good alignment was screaming. Every part of me wanted to say yes, except the part that remembered Tisna waiting at home. Jakor growing beautifully. My cobalt mining empire. My hobgoblin army. My catgirl maids. And Klee's new bigger bed. I have built something from scratch. Walking away from that to become someone else's king felt wrong. I want to be my kind of lord, not a goddess's trophy husband following someone else's rules. The lady did not give up, though. She convinced me to stay for 2 weeks as her guest. Her offer rare Britannian treasures and flawless gemstones. My red dragon blood heard free treasure and immediately signed the permission slip. My mouth said, well, I suppose a short visit before my brain could intervene. So, I spent 2 weeks touring Britannia with an ancient goddess as my personal guide. We visited the Grail Chapel at Bordeaux Castle, the first ever built. We saw Karasan, a blessed city with white walls and spires that serves as the faith's spiritual center. We rode through the capital Coroni in a fancy carriage pulled by 4 elven horses, while the lady leaned against me and studied me with fascinated eyes. She told me I was unlike any dragon she had ever met. In thousands of years of existence, she had never seen a dragon willingly spend hundreds of thousands of gold coins developing territory for other races. Dragons are legendarily stingy. The fact that I invest in infrastructure and population genuinely baffled her. A dragon who spends money on purpose apparently qualifies as a cryptozoological anomaly. We visited the famous Knight Academy in the capital, the continent's #1 military school. Tens of square kilometers of campus with horse tracks, training grounds, and thousands of noble students from across the world. Each enrollment season draws hundreds of thousands of applicants. They reject most of them. The lucky survivors spend years becoming the elite warriors who keep Britannia dominant. Some local noble kids rode around on mixed-blood elven horses, noses in the air flexing on foreign students whose families could not afford magical steeds. Elven horses are Britannia's specialty. Magically bred war horses that are fast, tireless, intelligent, and telepathically bonded with their riders. A knight and their elven horse fight as one mind. These horses almost never leave Britannia. At most, some mixed blood ones leak out through trade. Full-blooded elven horses are national treasures. The lady, leaning comfortably against me in our carriage, offered me some purebred elven horses as a parting gift. Simply like that. Priceless military assets handed over because she wanted to be generous. For a goddess, elven horses are a sentence, not a budget item. I coughed awkwardly and asked, could you include some stallions? This was slightly embarrassing. I had already rejected her marriage proposal, declined her throne offer, and was literally leaving her kingdom soon. On top of that, here I was asking for breeding-capable males, so I could start my own elven horse program back home. Audacity, the shamelessness, the absolutely transparent livestock acquisition strategy. But I needed stallions. Mars alone are simply expensive pets. Stallions plus quality, Mars, equals a self-sustaining breeding program. Within a generation, DRAM could have its own mixed-blood elven horse cavalry. Independent supply chain. No ongoing purchases. The economics were too good to let politeness get in the way. The lady smiled. She was not offended. If anything, she seemed amused by the fact that a legendary gold dragon was more excited about horse breeding logistics than about marrying a goddess. I think she likes me precisely because I am weird. Every other powerful being she meets either worships her, fears her, or wants to use her. I am the first one who showed up said, no thanks to the throne, but can I have some boy horses? And meant it completely sincerely. My 2 weeks in Britannia were almost over. Soon I would head home with 60 cloud giants, their griffins, their dire wolves, a collection of rare treasures, flawless gemstones, and a herd of purebred elven stallions, all acquired through the ancient dragon art of being charming and slightly shameless. Not bad for a diplomatic visit I almost skipped. The lady agreed to give me stallions without hesitation. She knew exactly what I was planning. Breed my own elven horse population back home. She found it amusing rather than offensive. Her voice had this mix of teasing and spoiling, like a rich girlfriend watching her boyfriend shamelessly ask for expensive things and finding it charming instead of tacky. Here is the thing about mixed-blood elven horses. They are already excellent. Regular knights riding purebred elven horses is actually wasteful overkill for building a cavalry corps. Mixed bloods are more than sufficient. On top of that, my territory borders the orc grasslands, so acquiring quality Mars for crossbreeding is basically a weekend shopping trip. Add purebred stallions from Britannia, plus good Mars from the grasslands, and within a generation, I will have my own self-sustaining elven horse program. Supply chain independence. My red dragon blood approves of never having to buy horses again. After agreeing, the lady nestled back against me in the carriage, head on my shoulder, arms wrapped around mine. She was not being subtle about her interest. The natural aura from my golden sprout acts like catnip for her as a primordial nature spirit. Being near me lets her feel connected to nature in ways she has not experienced since before recorded history. Simply, sitting beside me gives her profound spiritual insights. I am basically a meditation retreat in dragon form. The catch was that I noticed she had calmed down significantly since our first meeting. No more aggressive throne offers or surprise marriage proposals. I think she figured out that whatever gave me natural divinity must be something ancient and powerful. Possibly powerful enough that meddling with me could attract unwanted attention from forces even a goddess should respect. The lady survived since the primordial era through 2 separate divine ascensions. You do not achieve that by being reckless. She shifted strategy from acquire this dragon at all costs to befriend him and help when opportunities arise. Smart goddess. Very smart goddess. Did I trust her completely? Absolutely not. This woman built humanity's greatest military superpower from scratch. She designed the Grail Knight quest system, which simultaneously tests warriors and spreads her faith across the world. Every knight on their holy quest is also a walking advertisement for the Lady of the Lake. It is the most brilliant religious marketing campaign in history. She has billions of worshippers and near total control over a continent-spanning military culture. Anyone who thinks this goddess is simply a pretty face with bare feet needs their skull examined by a professional, preferably one riding a mixed-blood elven horse for irony. The catch was that free stuff is free stuff and the meat is right there. So I eat, stay friendly, keep my guard up. We arrived at the Knight Academy's training grounds and walked side by side. The lady had dressed up today. Instead of her usual barefoot goddess look, she was wearing high heels, making her already striking figure even more eye-catching. She called me my knight as she took my arm. I did not correct her. Pick your battles. This was not one worth fighting. Watching the young knights train under blazing sun was genuinely impressive. Thousands of talented nobles from across the world, pushing themselves through brutal drills. The lady watched them with unmistakable pride. These students are her long-term investment, graduates spread across every human kingdom, carrying her faith in Britannia's martial traditions with them. Her worship base grows every single year. In the Alpha Kingdom, her followers already nearly match the goddess of justice's numbers. From a small regional deity to a worldwide religious force, all through a Knight Academy and a very clever quest system. The bodyguards, trailing us at a distance, seemed like ordinary armored knights. Full plate, visors down, faces hidden, completely unremarkable. Except I could sense what they seriously were. Every single one was a Grail Knight Legends. The 4 leading the formation were Holy Domain tier, 1 full rank above Legendary. I nearly tripped when I realized this. The Seussers say the Grail Knight Order has about 100 members. Looking at these bodyguards alone, I am now certain the real number is at least double that, possibly more. The lady has been making legendary warriors for thousands of years. Of course, she has more than 100. She probably has enough Grail Knights to invade a continent solos. This woman is terrifying in the most polite way possible. I suddenly felt like I should be taking notes. In terms of long-term civilization building and power accumulation, the Lady of the Lake might actually be better at this game than me. I should learn from her. She has had thousands of years of practice at exactly what I am trying to do. Build a territory, grow an army, expand influence. My 50-year head start feels like kindergarten compared to her graduate-level operation. A moment later, something caught my eye on the training field. A small figure among the practicing knights, shorter than the others, but noticeably faster and more powerful. Already at high-tier knight rank, despite being clearly young, strong enough to potentially reach great knight by graduation. On top of that, his face, he looked 70% like CLA, a very pretty boy with his mother's features, training at the world's best knight academy in a foreign kingdom. I suddenly remembered Clea mentioning during one of our private conversations that her son studied at the Britannian Knight Academy. This had to be him. My brain immediately short-circuited, trying to figure out the appropriate social protocol. Do I go introduce myself and say what exactly? Hello, I am your mother's very close friend. In what universe does a mysterious young man approaching a teenage boy with that line not sound like a threat? His absent father is a bishop who rarely spends time with the family. If some stranger walked up claiming to be mommy's special buddy, this kid would probably draw his sword on principle. I decided to stay put. Some introductions are better left for never. I did not notice that the lady had followed my gaze to the boy. Her eyes lit up with what I can only describe as a goddess who simply discovered something entertaining. Whatever she was thinking, she kept it to herself. Ominous. Very ominous. That afternoon, the lady took me to the Academy's royal stables, and oh my dragon god, hundreds of purebred elven horses, even more Britannian war horses, the elven local crossbreeds that are already premium military mounts, plus royal pegasi, pure white flying horses from Britannia's Silvergale Mountains, exclusively reserved for Grail Knights as aerial mounts and royal hippogriffs. I was standing in the greatest cavalry breeding facility on the planet, surrounded by magical horses worth more than most baronies, with a goddess casually offering me whatever I wanted, like it was a gift shop. My inner horse breeder was having a religious experience. By the end of this chapter, the territory is stronger, the alliances are deeper, and the Dragon Lord has gained access to resources other rulers could only dream about. Yet the goddess's knowing smile makes one thing obvious. She has already discovered another secret, and her next move could drag his hidden life into the open. If you want to see how the farming cheat, fairy magic, and giant tree army evolve from here, the next part is where this kingdom building run gets even wilder.